We're live.
Yes, I want to ensure the live stream is ready to go, and once that is, and I've demoted the people who need to be, and then once we have that, I will give you the heads up.
What is wrong? So we're live, executive committee?
Not yet. Give it just a moment.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
I told him I believe it. I did. And we are up on the line.
So were you on the board?
Hey, Catherine.
Yes.
Catherine. Do we still need to keep our office open to the public?
I believe so. Well, no, at this point now it's turned into the meeting, so no.
Only?
Yeah, so since we're now in the regular meeting, no.
You can do it as that way. Or you can ask members of the public to sit up at the table. Yeah, or you can sit up at the table. Let me do that. You open all of you can sit at the table. Okay. Yeah. We need to move this back.
I got it.
Settled in.
This way.
Well, no, no.
Tilt it this way. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, go up to the table, please, and that way you'll be able to see the screen.
That good now, Dave?
Yeah, looks fine. Where's Stacy at?
Stacy's here. Come around, she's a trouble. What happened?
No, actually, I figured it out, most of it out for myself. The general fund is paying out, is it 500 something thousand? To Wildfire relief?
Oh, wow, the total is.
Oh, yeah. And that's from the state general fund, did they get reimbursed?
Sometimes.
But you're not qualified for ours. Yeah.
So that was the first one right there?
So Stacy, total would be 1 point something million?
I thought we were.
639 total.
Oh, okay.
How long before we start the meeting?
Okay.
Since you're here, do you mind if I call it in? Pump it up?
What's this?
Well, he had, I don't think of his son or something. He said it would be her 8th. We're okay if he doesn't, I guess. I know the list. I'm prepared. Isn't he only got 4 board members? All right.
Everyone in the room, Robin Williams is heading downstairs, and then we should be able to start the meeting.
We could start without Robin. So do we have, it's all board committee members here? I see Alan, we're missing Miss Love. I don't see Galarza. Miguel, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Can we somehow fix this so I can see the other committee members?
Yeah, let me take out the public comment.
Well, they're gonna need that for the slideshow,
Yeah,
right?
for the show.
For the public, especially.
Here you go.
Because it's just our look.
All right, we'll bear with this. Okay. Diana, are you here? I don't see you. Diana's not here yet.
She's still showing that she's on. I'm just not seeing her at the moment.
Maybe she just went to the restroom real quick. So we have a quorum of 3 out of 4, correct? 3 out of 4 committee members, we have a quorum, we can start. Okay, we'll start when Diana comes in. So let's start the meeting. Catherine, please.
Yes, we can start.
It's live.
Yes.
Okay, good morning. The time is 8:47. I call to order the April 11th meeting of the Executive Committee of the Contractors State License Board. My name is Michael Mark. I am our chair of the board and of the Executive Committee. Please note that only board members who are members of the Executive Committee may participate in the committee meeting. Members of the Executive Committee include Vice Chair Miguel Galarza, Board Secretary Alan Guy, Past Chair Diana Love, and myself. Other board members who are in attendance may observe but cannot ask questions or participate in the discussion. Today's meeting will provide the committee some updates on important executive division strategic plan items and priorities. Because this teleconference committee meeting is fully remote, committee members cannot make recommendations or motions. However, committee members can gather information, receive comments, and discuss among themselves what will be included in the summary report of this meeting. And that will be available to the full board at the June board meeting. Committee members, we will be using cameras during this hybrid meeting. Please have your camera on for the entirety of this meeting. When you would like to comment during the meeting, please select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. Our moderator will call on committee members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. With that, Robin, thank you for joining us. Can you please call and confirm we have a quorum?
Michael Mark,
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Alan Guy. I see him.
Alan Guy, is your microphone working?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We got you now.
And Diana Love.
She just stopped back down.
There she is. Diana Love, are you present?
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, with that, please turn to the next slide. At this time, I ask everyone to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Contractor State License Board staff participating in today's meeting include Registrar David Folk, Interim Chief Deputy Registrar Cindy Kanemoto, Licensing Chief Carol Gagnon, Enforcement Chief Steve Grove is not present. Chief of Legislation Rebecca May, not present. Executive Special Projects Personnel Mike Jaminski, and Executive Office Staff Robin Williams, who will be taking role. Public Affairs Chief Catherine White is offsite moderating this WebEx meeting. We also have Stacy and Tracy still. Thank you. In addition, we are fortunate to have DCEA Board Counsel John Kent. Go to slide 3, please. Next up is agenda item B, our public comment section. This item is provided for public comment pertaining to items not on the agenda. To allow this committee enough time to conduct its full schedule of business, I will be limiting public comments to 3 minutes apiece. Please note that state law prohibits committee members from discussing any matters brought up during public comment. We are also not allowed to act on any item not on the agenda. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing this item on the agenda at a future meeting. If you have an application, a complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. Committee members are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. If your comments are related to a specific agenda item, you can make your comments now, but you may want to wait until that item comes up for discussion. We ask for public comment before acting on any item. Public Affairs Chief Catherine White is our host and moderator today. She will be assisting us in monitoring public comment. Members of the public, when you would like to comment at any time during the meeting, please select the raise hand icon in the WebEx application or leave a message in the chat feature. With that, do any of the committee members have an item they would like to place on a future meeting agenda? With that, no. Is there any public comment?
Yes, we have two people who have their hands raised. I will call on Andrea Montano and send her a request to unmute. You should be unmuted now.
For allowing me to speak today. My name's Andrea Montano, and I'm here as an advocate representing a group of folks that were scammed by a local contractor. And I met with the CSLB earlier this week with some folks that are here on the call. And I just want to express my thank you for the time that we were able to spend together. Most of the conversation we talked about was around the emphasis and need of a comprehensive construction industry protection framework. And I want to just highlight a couple of items that are not on the agenda this morning, specifically around components regarding emergency mass fraud response protocols, catastrophic fraud recovery fund, and financial hardship triage system. These notes were sent back to a couple of folks here that are present in the meeting, and I would love to share that with the rest of the participants that are members here for the executive committee. And my purpose of sharing this information is really to try to address some immediate needs for mass fraud victims experiencing severe financial hardship. And our highest priority recommendation is to establish an emergency mass fraud response protocol, a protocol that could include financial hardship triage systems to rapidly identify victims at risk for losing homes or businesses, and a catastrophic fund recovery fund for providing emergency relief through potentially bridge loans secured against future recoveries. And this could potentially be something CSLB could help with, measuring through, executive action while pursuing legislative authorization. And so in light of some recent events, we thought that this is something that we can just kind of plant the seed here for families who are facing foreclosures and subcontractors at risk of business failure, and just directing some immediate resources that could potentially prevent some of these catastrophic outcomes. So just wanted to share that with you today, and I hope that's something that we can discuss further in more detail, but thought this committee would be an appropriate place to share some of those thoughts here. Thank you very much. That's all that I have.
Thank you for your comments, and appreciate you meeting with the board. I just heard from registered folk that will schedule another meeting with you as well. Catherine, is there any other comment on WebEx?
Yes, there is a call-in user 4 has their hand raised, so I will be sending them a request to unmute.
Hi, my name is Cameron Guglielmelli. I'm a plumber, and I am going down to the Los Angeles area when it's appropriate to help with what would appear to me to be overwhelming amount of work to be done, not only by the trades down there, but also by the city and county inspectors. I was just wanted to make a recommendation that possibly you could have like a community service inspector for overwhelming inspection requests, so that some of the trades could come in and pre-inspect the work for the inspectors so that they can overlook the things that, you know, once they get to the job, they can maximize their efficiency on the job to expedite as many possible inspections as possible. And it would be a test that the CSLB would, you know, regulate with maybe the unions or some of the trade groups that would give people residential inspection capabilities to just pre-inspect, commercial pre-inspection to help offset the overload that they're going to feel and the delay that would come with the understaffing and overwhelming responses to the need for inspections. So it's something that I thought of while I was working, and I thought maybe I'd pass that on to you guys. Hopefully it's something that you could look into. And it seems to me that I went down, I was going to go down there with the intention of being an inspector, but the process is protracted. But if you just had a single tradesman go into a job and do all the pre-qualification checklist things, put it on the inspector's email or, you know, some kind of communication, and then he could go to the website, he could go to the job site and see that the majority of the work was done, you know, that wouldn't mandate him spend an extensive amount of time there. So that was my thought. Hope that helps. If not, well, that's all I got.
Well, thank you for your comment. Obviously, inspections is not in the purview of the CSLB, but it's always good to have comments. With that, is there any other public comment? Catherine?
There's no other public comment at this time.
On WebEx. Any public comment for anybody in the room? Looking like there's no public comment for anyone in the room. I forgot to mention, we should also recognize we have Brian Clifford here from DCA Board and Bureau of Relations. With that, we will move on. There's no comments on WebEx. There's no comments in the room in public in Sacramento. Next item, Agenda C. Next slide, please. We are now moving to Agenda Item C. The agenda item is to update members of the committee about significant IT division projects. And the agenda item C is review and discussion regarding IT technology 2-year projects. The first is regarding the monumental project to fully automate online the CSLB license application for sole owner contractors. As most of you know, former IT Chief Jason Perez accepted a promotion at the California Department of Technology. In his absence, we are fortunate to have with us IT managers Mike Collins and Raja Saul. I apologize, I know I butchered it a little bit. Mike and Raju, please provide an update on the sole owner online application status. I don't know if you guys want to do one at a time. I guess I will say here, the sole owner online application status first. Who wants to go for update?
Good morning. I am Mike Collins, and I'm excited to share an update on our projects. So in partnership with SimplyGov, we are in the process of automating our original contractor license, original application for original contractor license, and we'll be automating that so that it can be submitted online. So the initial development's in progress, and it will be focused on sole ownership in business entity applications. SimplyGov, a little bit about them. SimplyGov is developing an interactive interview style process, similar to what you would see with TurboTax, H&R Block Tax software, where you're guided through you'll be guided through the application with questions based on your response. It will guide you through the process from beginning to end. Applicants will be able to upload their documentation directly into the SimplyGov platform application, and their work experience will be verified electronically. We're very excited about that. This digital process will also acquire all signatures online, get e-signatures, and will take care of online payments for the fees that they owe. So everything will be automated online. This experience will increase workload efficiency by ensuring that CSLB receives a completed application and reduces the need for CSLB staff to request the correction of missing information, difficult to read handwriting, or missing signatures. That way we can have a complete application that's received and will save time having to get additional information. Applicants will be able to submit their application from the comfort of their home or office or any location versus having to complete forms manually and having to either mail it or visit the CSLB headquarters. We anticipate the initial phase to roll out later this year, summer 2025. And with your support, this will be the first step in our vision for CSLB applications going forward. After this, we're looking to build our back office dashboard and workflow for our internal staff, so they'll be able to view, modify, process applications in the CipliGov platform. The online submissions of our other entity types, corporations, partnerships, LLCs, and joint venture applications. And then we'll be looking to move forward with all our other applications, getting those within the CipliGov platform and being able to be filled out and submitted online. And also going forward, we'll be looking at the electronic renewal notifications, getting that within the CipliGov platform, so we can send out notifications electronically, get their renewal, and they can submit and pay their renewal online. So very exciting. Looking forward to this for the next foreseeable future, and we appreciate your support. If you don't have any questions, I'll hand it over to you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mike. Great report. Is there any questions from any of the committee members? Seeing, I guess I have a question. How with this, once this actually comes in play, how much quicker will applications? Maybe this may be for Carol, or is there a timeline, or like 2 minutes quicker, 3 minutes quicker? Like, what's the thoughts?
We're not entirely sure, and the reason is because they're building the front end, so for the applicant, it's gonna be much quicker, because they're gonna go in, they're gonna type it all in, they're gonna be able to pay online, they're gonna be able to do all this online. On our side, the back end part is in the phase 2 and hasn't been built yet.
Okay.
So a lot of our processing is still going to be manual,
Yeah.
but the fact that everything's gonna have to be signed, that it will have to be paid for, that they'll have to have the right amount is gonna save us time in the long run, because we're not gonna have to go back and say, you forgot to sign your application, please sign this and send it back to us. That will save us time.
Great. Yeah, thanks for the update.
Thank you, Mike.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So I'm assuming we're gonna move to the enterprise document management system next, all right, which is the new name staff have given for the platform that will manage all licensing documents for the board. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairman. Mike. So my name's Raju Shah. I'm here to give you an update, current status, as well as future plans for EDMS, commonly known as now Enterprise Document Management System. So CSLB has developed this cloud-based solution now to replace our existing imaging and workflow system, we're commonly known as IWAS, to this new platform. The replacement system, from a timeline perspective, is ready to go live actually into this month, and we're like super excited to see that happening. We have been working, as far as IT, working with other divisions, including Carol's team, licensing, and IWAS, and enforcement team as well, and other divisions to thoroughly test this system. So make sure that we do any bug fixes, etc. Go back to the vendor, work with them, and happy to report that it's going extremely well. And in fact, we have testing along with training going on currently right now with all of the different staff out there. And so far from Slicing Management, the feedback I've gotten is they're super, super excited to see this go live, which I feel very fortunate because changing technologies and systems, something that we've had over a decade, I feel like, and that was, I figured would be a little bit of a challenge, but everybody has been very open and working collaboratively with us in IT. So very excited about that. Some of the future plans for the system also include just additional cost savings to the board as well as state of California. We're fortunate to negotiate a one price for unlimited storage on this platform. So recognizing that currently we have a lot of file shares with lots of data and documents out there, it's giving us an opportunity to do some cleanup, get those stored on the single platform where we could store, retrieve, search. So we'll have better abilities than we have today and actually realize cost savings as well. Secondly, I would say in our strategic effort to go in paperless, excuse me, as well, wherever feasible, would like to go ahead and take the data or files coming in either through email attachments, by mail, any of the online submission portals, etc. we have. Let's get those stored on this one common platform. Once again, it's one price for all, so might as well go there. We could do much better reporting. We could actually have timestamps so when things are coming into the board as an example. So if we need to do further investigation on something, or look into things, we could do that. And also helps us become more paperless as well and utilize this this online platform. Also, if there's any business process flows, we could do that as well, as similar to what we've been doing with iWAS. Also, I would say also it's going to help us further reduce our carbon footprint as well. We have lots of hard copy documents at the board right now currently, and wherever feasible, we could scan them into our system. Get them into readable PDF, where once again, we can make them searchable, stored in one platform, do any sort of reporting as well on it. And so that'll be a huge benefit, I feel like, for the board and the state. Furthermore, we could utilize this platform to modernize our enforcement modernization effort as well. With this cloud-based solution, I know we share data currently with the district attorney's office, consumers, and other state agencies. We will be able to securely share that data with them, and then continually, again, having better ability to store, search, and retrieve the data, run reports, etc. on it, and further kind of enhancing our ability that we have currently today. And also, at the same time, we're realizing cost savings again, because we're not paying anything extra for it. So also, the other plans are to integrate with other systems that we have on our board, including what Mike said, which is Simply Gov system, along with any other systems coming down the line. We want to integrate and make sure we could share data between the platforms and have one common online storage platform. I'll conclude there. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions from board committee members? Seeing none. Okay, the last one, who's taking that one? Enforcement modernization.
That's what I kind of talked about at the same time.
I know we're talking about a lot of the files, but I wasn't sure if it was actually.
I did combine the two just to kind of save us a little time as well.
I know Steve Grove wasn't here. I thought he was maybe going to jump in too. Okay,
yeah.
So obviously, all of these for our executive committee members. For our executive committee members, all of this is our strategic goal 5.3, which we're a little bit ahead on schedule. You know, the due date was October 2026, Q1. Explore and implement process efficiencies to reduce processing times in licensing and enforcement and to increase transparency. So all of these three things really hit on our strategic goal that we just came up with. So I really appreciate all the staff's hard work on making sure that we had, as a board, we set the strategic goals, and you're helping to implement that. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there any items, any comments from the public on on item C?
Yes, there is. Andrea Matano has raised her hand. I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Thank you again, Catherine, and thanks again for allowing me to speak. I'll apologize in advance because some of these items that I'll bring up may sound redundant, but I'm trying to kind of pin them to some of the items that you mentioned. And so when I'm looking at some of the priority framework components that we presented in Tuesday as it pertains to IT, I think that some cross-jurisdictional enforcement task force technology needs, I think that is part of your enforcement modernization plan. So that's actually really great to see that that is part of this. If there could be some consideration for early warning systems for data integration capabilities and architectural certification digital verification systems. And so as an example, as you plan these IT projects, I just want to recommend integrating some key technology components specifically on your IT roadmap to include a financial hardship triage database that could allow real-time identification and tracking of severe hardship cases resulting in emergency intervention, cross-agency data sharing capabilities to support a cross-jurisdictional enforcement task force that could enable efficient collaboration with those district attorneys, as well as a digital verification systems for architectural certifications that could potentially prevent payment phase fraud. As we see, a lot of the fraud contractors are collecting more than $1,000 or 10% upfront. And in the meeting, there was shared that there's about 70 folks in investigations and also 30 analysts. We've seen a huge wave of mass fraud that has occurred. And I know that they're going through the BCP process to bring on potentially 5+ more PYs, which I think is great. Sometimes throwing resources, there's a ramp up strategy that's needed, right, for training and procurement. And so IT can really kind of facilitate some of those things long term, especially as the ADU contractor world is growing. And I can see that payment data existing in these systems that could potentially could have been shared promptly with local prosecutors and not delay enforcement activities while victims face financial ruin. An integrated system would also allow immediate identification of patterns and activities that could coordinate that response. And so I just want to recommend allocating some IT resources potentially on the roadmap, as you can, for those critical components that could potentially directly prevent catastrophic outcomes for fraud victims. And so that's just my recommendation there, is just to kind of see some overlay activities where we can catch some patterns of behavior early on. That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that comment. And I know this is not our enforcement committee, but there is a strategic goal for enforcement where it's like assess the need for additional resources and address unlicensed activity. So that kind of fits in with that. I think as we come up with our plan for the next strategic goal year, some of those items we could probably think about and see if the board wants to implement. So I appreciate your public comment there. Is there any other public comment?
No other public comment at this time.
Okay, any other board comment? Seeing none, thank you again, and we will move on to agenda item D. So next slide, please. We are now moving to agenda item D, staff training update. I understand we have a video to display for this item. Before we do that, I'll turn it over to Interim Chief Deputy Registrar Cindy Kanemoto to provide us an introduction to this item.
Thank you and good morning. It's really my pleasure to be back at CSLB, assisting David as the Interim Chief Deputy Registrar. And as you know, one of our values at CSLB is supporting a team concept and the professional development of staff. And I'd like to report on the progress CSLB is making as it pertains to both onboarding and training our employees. This is also one of my passions as a former training manager for various state departments, including the Department of Consumer Affairs. We want to show you our onboarding video, which helps new employees understand the role of CSLB and each of the divisions and units. So let's take a look. So if we could show the video.
Welcome to the Contractor State License Board, or CSLB, one of the nation's leading consumer protection agencies. CSLB is part of the Department of Consumer Affairs and is responsible for licensing contractors in California and enforcing contractor state license law. This video will give you a brief organizational overview of CSLB and the important work we do to regulate the construction industry and protect consumers. CSLB is made up of a 15-member board, a registrar of contractors or executive officer, and 5 divisions that each play a vital role in fulfilling our consumer protection mission. The governor and state legislature appoint the 15 board members. These include 10 members who represent the public and 5 members who represent aspects of the construction industry. Of these board members, 1 member represents labor, 1 is a building official, and 1 represents a senior citizen organization. The board appoints the registrar and meets quarterly to make decisions about CSLB's administrative policy and to help manage its $70 million annual budget. Unlike many state departments, CSLB does not receive general state fund allocations, but relies mainly on fees from new contractor license applications, license renewals, and license modifications for its funding. You can find a list of CSLB board members and their bios on our website. CSLB has over 400 employees who work at its Sacramento headquarters and field offices throughout California. These offices work together to serve consumers, applicants, and licensees around the state. Staff at CSLB work in one of the 5 divisions: the Executive Division, Licensing and Testing, Enforcement, Administration, and Information Technology. The Registrar and Chief Deputy Registrar lead the organization and implement board-directed policy. There are almost 300,000 licensed contractors in California. Anyone hired to do construction work that costs $500 or more in labor and/or materials must have a state-issued license. CSLB issues licenses for general contractors who build homes and oversee major home renovations, contractors who build things like bridges and roads, and specialty trades such as electricians, landscapers, and roofers. Each trade is considered a classification. People who want a contractor license must first submit an application. Then, once that's approved, they must pass a law and business exam as well as a specific trade exam, unless they qualify for an exam waiver. Licensing staff process all license applications. Part of the application process involves a criminal background check, verification of required work experience, and complying with bond and insurance requirements. Licensing staff also process applications for those registering as home improvement salespersons. A home improvement salesperson, or HIS, is employed by a licensed contractor to negotiate, sell, or execute home construction contracts. CSLB has approximately 22,000 active HIS registrants. In addition, licensing staff handle any requests to change something on a license, from the business address to adding another classification. They also process all license renewals. Additionally, there's testing, which oversees the development and administration of CSLB's exams at 20 PSI exam center locations. CSLB receives approximately 1,700 new license applications and 10,000 renewals per month. While more and more services can be completed online, the majority of these applications and renewals are delivered to CSLB's cashiers unit in Sacramento. There, cashier staff process all payments submitted to CSLB, properly code them, and then route paper documents to be scanned electronically into document reading software called IWAS, and CSLB's digital licensee database and management system, TEAL. With so much of CSLB's work dependent on functioning and updated computer equipment and software, the Information Technology Division is crucial to CSLB's success. IT staff oversee the installation and maintenance of computer equipment, software, and a secure network system. IT staff also help maintain content on the internal and external websites. They're also available to assist CSLB employees with many technical problems, like not being able to connect to the internet, problems sending or receiving email, and other software-related or computer equipment issues. All of CSLB's IT staff are based in Sacramento, but they're still available to assist staff in offices throughout the state. Fortunately, most of California's licensed contractors comply with the state's licensing requirements and regulations. However, when CSLB does receive a complaint about either a licensed or unlicensed contractor, it's handled by the Enforcement Division, which has field offices around the state. CSLB responds to about 20,000 complaints each year. CSLB has more jurisdiction in cases against licensed contractors than unlicensed contractors, and first tries to mediate the disagreement over the phone. If that's not successful, the complaint can be forwarded for further investigation. Depending on the issues involved, the available evidence, and the complexity of the case, CSLB may recommend arbitration, or a contractor may need to fix or complete work, may receive a citation, may be required to pay restitution to a customer, or may be referred for criminal prosecution. Addressing those who contract without a license is a top priority for CSLB's Enforcement Division. The statewide investigative fraud team, more commonly referred to as SWIFT, leads the board's efforts in this area and conducts undercover stings to help reduce illegal contracting. SWIFT also works with other state agencies to conduct compliance sweeps of active construction sites. In addition to its staff at CSLB headquarters, SWIFT has field offices throughout the state. While CSLB's Enforcement Division works to minimize illegal contracting and help the construction industry run smoothly, CSLB's administration staff perform a wide range of activities essential to helping the board run smoothly and efficiently. The Personnel Unit serves as a liaison between CSLB staff and the Human Resources section at the Department of Consumer Affairs, handles employee hires and separations, and all health and safety activities. Personnel staff also provide training and information on career advancement. Personnel staff work at CSLB headquarters in Sacramento, but provide services and information for staff at all CSLB office locations. Check with your supervisor to find out which personnel specialist is assigned to your unit. Another unit under the Administration Division is Business Services, which oversees procurement of non-IT items and services, development, preparation, and execution of a variety of contracts, facilities-related issues, CSLB's fleet of vehicles, inventory, records management, processing invoices, and emergency preparedness. Business Services also manages employee travel and training. CSLB warehouse staff store and distribute office supplies and publications, manage department recycling, and assist with room configuration for meetings and other board events at Sacramento headquarters. And CSLB mailroom staff are responsible for ensuring that all incoming mail is received, sorted, and delivered to the correct individual or unit. They also package outgoing mail. CSLB's Executive Division encompasses the Registrar, the Chief Deputy Registrar, and their support staff. The Public Affairs, Legislative, and Budget offices are also part of the Executive Division. The Registrar and Chief Deputy Registrar work closely with the 15-member board to set policies. They work closely with industry, associations, and consumer advocacy groups to improve and clarify programs and processes. They also prepare executive-level reports such as the Sunset Review Report and testify before the legislature at various hearings. In addition, they work closely with the department and other state agencies on interrelated policy matters and joint task forces. And they oversee the work of all divisions, including implementation of new laws and rules. Public Affairs oversees CSLB's media and outreach. This includes responding to press inquiries, managing CSLB's social media presence, conducting outreach to potential applicants and licensees about industry-related topics, producing videos, and overseeing CSLB's publications. The Public Affairs Office also offers consumer outreach programs about the importance of hiring a licensed contractor, how to avoid being scammed, and tips for rebuilding after a disaster. CSLB's public counter staff assist consumers who come to the office, answer licensing-related questions, and accept licensing documents such as bonds, workers' compensation, and renewals. They also handle all cash payments. CSLB's call center, where staff answer the board's 800 number and provide information for consumers, applicants, and licensees, is also part of the Public Affairs Office. Public Affairs staff work closely with other CSLB units to stay current on
It's like, it has like 2 minutes left.
Yeah, can run us through.
You can? Okay.
Sure.
I see the
Sorry.
thing on the bottom.
See if she can bring it back to that spot. Yeah.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties here. I guess what we'll do, we'll move on. Apologize for the video getting shortened there. So go ahead. Cindy.
Okay,
You have anything
so-
else?
Oh, Diana?
Yes, Diana.
I have a couple questions. Is that a new video being recognized?
No, it's an older video of our onboarding video. So it was done in 2022. There were some items that need to be corrected. One of them being for the $500 is now $1,000. So it was just to show the board members who haven't seen the video. That was the purpose.
And that's an onboarding for staff
New
that come
employees.
aboard?
Yes, this is just for new employees.
Okay.
So currently, we're looking at revamping our onboarding process. And this is a video that we will be updating, and we will be making that available to all new employees so that they can become familiar with all of our divisions and all the activities that we do here at CSLB. So for a brand new employee, it's very beneficial for them to be able to watch a video of that type to become familiar with everything. So that's the purpose of the video, and it is truly just internal. It's not an external video. So we will be updating the couple of items that need to be updated on that. But we really are excited that we have something that we can share with employees when they first, log on as a new employee here at CSLB. The other thing that we've been doing is really working to engage our staff more internally. We have what's called the CSLB intranet site that we have been working to direct staff to. And if we can show the slide of the intranet site.
Before you do that, I just want to complete my statement. I would like to make a suggestion that video, once it's updated, is also onboarding for board members to give them an overview about what CSLB does. It's an excellent, I thought it was a very excellent video, long, but maybe we can do also a shorter version that we can put on our website to educate our viewers that come on to learn about CSLB as well.
Thank you. Yeah, those are great suggestions. Yeah, that's definitely something we can take a look at and do. And yeah, it is long. It's 12 minutes. But for a brand new employee that's sitting there and trying to learn about the department, I think it suffices for that. We might want a shorter one for board members or for the public. But yeah, thank you for that, Diane. Any other questions about the video before I move on?
Yes.
Miguel, go ahead, Miguel.
Thank you. I would concur with Ms. Love's comment, and yeah, it was actually well written, well moderated, and provided, quite frankly, a lot of great information for the public. So it was well done. Well done.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I also agree that they did a great job putting that together. But moving on, if there aren't any other questions on the video? No? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. You can see here, we've partnered with the Department of Consumer Affairs Training Unit, SOLID, to utilize their learning management system. And so when a new employee comes on, they'll receive an email from SOLID, which will direct them to their training page that's specific for them. And it's kind of hard to see, but that onboarding video is on this page and specific, all the classes that they need to take and classes that we identify for them to take as a new employee will be on this portal, and it will provide a one-stop shop for them for getting their training done, as well as having one centralized location to track all of their training. So that's part of an exciting new venture that we've kind of entered into with them. And it's a great resource for our employees. So if I can go to the next slide. That one. So this is just a screenshot of our CSLB training calendar. And we are putting all of the training that we recommend for our employees on this site. It's on our intranet site. We've also done a really good job of notifying employees now regularly of the types of training that we are encouraging them to obtain. The big long purple line there is our Enforcement Academy, which is currently taking place as we speak in Southern California. So that is another great training that we have internally. So we're really trying hard to make sure that we're giving our employees the tools they need to be successful in the work that they do here. So this training calendar, I think, has been very beneficial. You can't see it, but if they hover on any of those classes, it will give them a description of what the class is. The other thing that we're doing is our Chief of Administration has just recently put together a career development and mentoring program, and we have members of that who we will be meeting with the end of this month, and that they will assist us in identifying core training for all of the employees. So we're excited to really get this training development off and going. We're also working with our enforcement unit to make sure that enforcement has all of the training that they need and developing more training opportunities for them. So that concludes my presentation on the training and meeting. Basically, we're looking at strategic goal 5.2 when we're looking at this. So doing a lot of work and progress in that arena. Any other questions?
Thank you, Cindy. And the strategic goal is to reinstate the training unit to improve new employee onboarding and provide formal structured training for all employees. So great work. Again, we have a vision from the board, and then how do we actually implement the vision, and appreciate staff for doing that. Is there any other specific board member comments on agenda item D? Okay. Any other comment from the public? Catherine?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, move on to the next slide, agenda item E. Los Angeles County Wildfire Outreach Education and Enforcement Update. We're now moving on to item E. I know that CSLB staff in every division has been working hard to prioritize the services provided to licensees and to the public affected by wildfires. For this update, I'll turn it over to Registrar David Vogt.
Thank you, Chair Mark. It's my pleasure to highlight some of staff's achievements as it relates to the education, outreach, and enforcement in the declared disaster areas. I'm going to begin with the disaster recovery centers. Since January 14th, we've had SWIFT investigators, and SWIFT is our proactive enforcement unit. They have staffed 2 DRCs 7 days a week. Up until about 2.5 weeks ago, we were able to downsize to only having 1 investigator present at the DRCs. We do have our education material in Spanish, with the exception, I guess, of one brochure about putting a contract together, and we're in the process of obtaining additional copies in Spanish for those DRCs. We are performing and conducting sweeps in the burn area. We're partnering with the Department of Insurance and EDD. We're performing those sweeps. Steve Grove, our enforcement chief here, I think we're doing 2 a week in each of the fires.
That's correct.
Palisades and Eaton Fire.
Correct.
So it's a real concerted effort. We did have a meeting yesterday. Thank you, Steve, for putting that together, where we touched base with the supervisor and manager that are overseeing that effort. And it was kind of interesting to learn that a lot of the complaints we're receiving, either we're identifying the sweep or we're receiving a lead, they're relating to incorrect bagging of hazardous material. We've got contractors out there that don't have the hazardous material certification. And this relates to the debris removal. Right now, the focus is really on ensuring that the debris removal is done safely and competently, and consumers are not being harmed in the process. Many of the workers they lack safety equipment, so real concern. We've heard that we have contractors claiming that the workers are independent contractors. It doesn't work that way in California. If somebody's performing construction, they either have to be licensed themselves or they have to be an employee of the contractor. So listen, there's an owner-builder exception, but if you're working for somebody else, you can't claim unlicensed people or independent contractors. It doesn't work. The argument, the concern is they're doing that so they don't have to provide the safety equipment. So fortunately, Steve Grove and the enforcement team have set up a interagency agreement with Cal OSHA. So when we have unsafe conditions, they can refer that to Cal OSHA. I understand they're doing that in a batch program. And within the next couple of weeks, we anticipate Cal OES doing a ride along with our SWIFT investigators to get some background footage that can be used for our videos and outreach. Moving on to webinars, I had the pleasure of working with Assemblymember Jackie Irwin last week on a webinar. It included LA City and county officials. Focused a lot on the rebuild, touched a little bit on the debris removal, but the permitting process, the contract requirements, how consumers can protect themselves with the rebuild. And we had over 65 attendees with that webinar. I'll be speaking on April 17th with Assemblymember John Garabedian, a rebuild webinar. Looking forward to that. And then CSLB will be conducting its own webinar April 22nd. So planning that for April 22nd. It's going to be focused on debris removal because, again, we're not seeing a lot of rebuilding starting. I know we've heard that there's 2 permits issued for the rebuild. Maybe there's more. But right now it's on the debris removal. As you're probably all aware, a wildfire survivor can opt into the government program or they can opt to do it themselves, hiring their own contractor. And so it's our understanding that the government program is working extremely well, but where we have a concern is where they've opted out. If they've opted out, we want to make sure that the contractor that is doing the work is properly classified, has the knowledge and the training, and their employees have completed the 40-hour HAZWOP course so they can do the debris removal safely. Also, our enforcement staff have confirmed that they recently met with the LA District Attorney's Office, and the LA District Attorney is committed to prosecuting unlicensed practice, but also where the fraudulent activity. And I just want to make sure I mentioned here this morning that the real focus is going to be on making sure that these contractors that are doing the debris removal or the rebuild are not frontlining the contract. So it's a reminder, it's a $1,000 deposit. You don't get progress payments unless they are equivalent to the work that's been performed. Very important. On March 29th, we had our statewide program manager, Jerry Hassan. He oversees our case management program, and a supervisor, Renee Blackshire, that attended a conference in LA. It was put on by, it was called the Sentinel Wildfire Recovery and Rebuild Conference. Had over 600 people there. The Lieutenant Governor was in attendance. We have our housing, Business Consumer Service and Housing Agency Secretary, Nika Moss, also in attendance. And the word is they did a phenomenal job. I appreciate them working on a Saturday to attend that and present at that conference. We are updating our rebuilding video, and we expect that to be released Monday. We also, I had the privilege of working with Director Kim Kirkmeyer and Rick Moore. He oversees the Professional Engineering, Land Surveys, and Geologists Board to create a wildfire public safety video. So that's out there. We learned yesterday that the the governor, this government ops, with the governor's office, has created a video, and two of our staff, two of our special investigators appear in that video, Ubaldo Sanchez and Nora Urias. We've developed a press release. It's currently under review by Cal OES. We anticipate Wildfire press release going out no later than Wednesday of next week. On March 31st, we released a fast facts bulletin. It confirms the classifications that are authorized for form debris removal, along with the hazardous material removal certification requirement. And I guess that was pretty much what that focused on. We're going to update that. What we've done is we've surveyed contractors that have the appropriate classifications to see if they would like to be contacted for bids. We have that list. We're looking to make that available on the CSLB website under the Disaster Help Center page, but also making that list available to LA County officials. And we're going to emphasize in the revised bulletin the progress payment restrictions, which are so important, and the 40-hour HAZWOPER requirement. We anticipate the updated Fast Fact Bulletin being released on or before April 16th. And I guess just the last thing, I just want to really thank our outstanding budget manager, Stacy Paul. And I'm going to turn it over to Stacy with some good news as it relates to the expenses we've been incurring. Stacy.
Well, thank you, Dave. Yes, I've been working with collaboration with enforcement staff as well as Cal OES and capture all our costs at the disaster response center. And I'm happy to report that we've received $529,000 in general fund reimbursement. So this will go back to our budget to offset the costs that we've expended. I'm continuing to work with them on our cost as we still have presence there at the DRC. So I'll still seek to get additional reimbursement as we continue to be at the centers. Thank you.
Oh, I know. Thank questions. Thank you, Register folks and Stacy. Is there any questions from board members, committee members? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm shaking heads of no. I would just say I appreciate all of the hard work staff is doing in regards to the fires. As everyone knows, we mentioned at our last board meeting, we took that tour, and the devastation of the fires has been insurmountable. So appreciate all the hard work staff is doing at the DRC. That too. Our staff there present is in the end, it's helping the informed public. So once that rebuilding after a disaster video goes out, that goes out sometime next week, please make sure that gets out to everybody on our listserv. That would be really appreciated. We really need to get that message out. So with that, I don't have any other comments. Is there any other public comment, Catherine?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay, I'll give one more last chance for any committee member comment. Miguel, go ahead.
Yeah, Register folk, in listening to your discussion at the fire-related issues regarding workplace comp, and I know that we've been having some substantive discussions with the legislators on this issue. Is there going to be some grandfathering into regarding this very specific issue and the rampant abuse of independent contractor designations that are going on specifically in this fire related cleanup effort?
Yes, we can add that to our bulletin, to our fast facts. It's going to be reissued, the workers' compensation insurance requirement. If you're open to it, Miguel, we could run that by you. Take a look at the fast facts bulletin before it's reissued. Make sure it covers everything that it should.
I would make that recommendation to the chair, and I'll see Joel as the committee member, as the chair of that committee. But that's something that is here and now, and clearly is abusing the system of not only EDD, workers, unemployment insurance. This is also tying into the workman's comp fraud. This is tying into withholding fraud. So there's multiple things that are going on here that is taking money away from the state of California and protecting the public, and quite frankly, protecting those employees who have no clue that they're having this type of exposure, especially if they don't have the proper training and are being told they're independent, and they're independently going into this arena with zero protection.
I think too, Miguel, obviously right after this meeting, we're gonna have our enforcement committee meeting, right? And that's a perfect topic for that specific meeting, because when we're talking about the various strategies with the SWIFT team, I know Steve is working on that too. But to your point, I agree with you. And today's point, the fun facts, or not fun facts. Well, it is fun. It's fast.
I like the slow facts.
Yeah, the fact sheet that will be coming out regarding the fires. We really need to make sure all of that is listed on, especially on independent contractors and workers' comp, the requirements for contractors. All of that needs to be listed within, so consumers are protected and they are aware of everything that is needed. So it's a yes and a yes there.
If I could, I agree, we should talk about that more at the enforcement committee, but Steve, do you want to talk, really just confirm that you got EDD and the Jessup task force involved in this for that?
Yeah, that's correct. We are going out with EDD and Department of Insurance, but for this particular issue, the independent contractors, we consider them unlicensed contractors. So we address that right away. A licensed contractor can't just hire somebody and call them an independent contractor. If they're not licensed, they're both in violation. The licensee's in violation for hiring an unlicensed contractor, and the unlicensed contractor is also held accountable.
Does that answer your question of what staff is doing, Miguel, to combat the situation and taking your points?
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that, we're connecting the dots and we make sure that the hammer comes down appropriately.
Great, and I believe you're on the enforcement committee too, Miguel. I believe you should definitely put that again for comment when you have the full enforcement committee. And then Steve could ask that question at that point in time too. With that, is there any other board member comments for the executive committee? Seeing none, with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn the executive committee. Motion by Miguel, I think.
So moved, yes.
Second, no second needed. So with that, enforcement committee should be starting up right now with this adjournment. So appreciate everybody's time. Thank you. And then I'll turn it over to Enforcement Chair Kobos, who should be on here. So we'll have to we'll do a little bit of rearranging, and thank you.
Can we get a 5-minute recess? The restroom has my name on it.
Sure. So Catherine, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You'll have to promote
yes.
Enforcement Chair Kobos and the other team.
Yeah, I just promoted Jerry Hassan, who has members Rodney Kobos, Joel, and Jacob Lipless in the room.
Catherine, this is Diana. What is the next meeting I'm a part of?
Yeah, the next meeting you are on is the legislative committee, which will be as soon as this enforcement committee ends.
It's supposed to be at 10:30, right?
It's supposed to be at 10:30. It may be slightly after, depending on.
Gonna go away for a while.
Yes. Of course.
You're good, yeah. No, you're good.
All right.
Good shot. You can tell.
I thought it was right next to pick my seat.
Yeah.
My seat,
I was heading out. You told me.
I'm done.
Are you done with this?
So Joseph did join, or he's here?
Yeah, but he's not on enforcement, so he would be alleged potentially.
Go ahead. Okay, think you're good.
Great, thank you.
This is open session, right?
No, it's open.
You're great.
Thank you.
Just making sure.
Thank you. Good morning. Is everyone back?
Good morning, Rodney. I see Miguel. Hey, Robin, is the hearing room ready?
I'm assuming so, Dave. Mike told me to unmute, so yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay, we're good to go then, and yes,
You can see better.
Yeah, we have another for you, Joseph.
There's Rodney right there, but he's under Jerry Hassan.
Joseph's here.
Does he need to change that?
I think I'm a little early for that.
Way early.
Better early than late.
You're
gonna be
asked not to say anything.
I will, I'm reading.
Do we have a nameplate? Joseph?
Catherine, can you hear me?
yes,
Okay.
That's,
I can hear you.
this is Rodney and Jerry's spot.
What?
In Jerry's window here, is that Rodney Kobos?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Is it okay if it says Jerry Hassan even though it's Rodney?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, great. Good morning. The time is now
Sorry about that.
9:57. I call to order the April 11th, 2025 meeting of the Contractor State License Board's Enforcement Committee. I am Rodney Kobos, Enforcement Committee Chair. Please note that only board members who are members of the Enforcement Committee may participate in this committee meeting. Other board members who are in attendance may observe but cannot ask questions or participate in the discussion. Today's Enforcement Committee meeting will provide an update regarding CSLB's enforcement program. Committee members are encouraged to comment on and discuss the agenda items. However, a vote cannot be taken because the meeting is being conducted virtually rather than in person. Committee members will be using cameras during this meeting. The law requires committee members participating in this meeting to have their cameras on. Please have your camera on for the duration of the meeting. When you would like to comment during the meeting, please select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. Our moderator will call on committee members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. Board member Henry Nutt III has an approved absence. Because this meeting is virtual, there are no voting items. This meeting will be discussion only. Robin, please take roll and confirm we have a quorum.
Rodney Kobos,
Here.
Miguel Galarza,
Here.
Amanda Gallo. She told me she was gonna be a few minutes late, so. Let me check back. Jacob Lopez. Henry now has an excused absence. Thomas Ruiz.
Here.
We have 3 other 6.
I think Jacob is in Norwalk.
Yeah.
Norwalk?
Remote.
He left. He was going to participate virtually. By what?
No.
3 out of 6 or 7?
Robin, how many do we have?
6.
How many are present?
3. We have 6 in the committee, 3 present.
That's right.
Not yet. We do not have a quorum.
We're missing Amanda or Jacob.
Amanda said she was gonna be 5 to 10 minutes late. So we
And
currently
I've
know.
checked the attendees list, and neither is listed on there right now.
So we have to wait.
We're gonna meet this hearing.
Get a hold of Amanda or Jacob.
Yeah, we should try to reach Amanda.
Could we take a motion to recess until a quorum is, do we have a quorum?
I think we're trying to contact 2 board committee members that said they were going to be available, and we're finding out if there's a problem. If we find out it'll be longer than 5 minutes, certainly.
Amanda texted me at 7:55, said she'd be 5 to 10 minutes late.
How many minutes ago was that?
That was 2 hours ago. She was on the morning.
She
was on. That's what I was checking.
I don't know if it's appropriate to have me substitute. I guess you have to be on the committee, huh?
Yeah. And I should probably call.
You ask the attorney, I'm happy to sit in, but it's probably not appropriate, but it's a gift because we're not gonna vote on anything today.
No.
You too, thank you.
John, is John on? It has to be a committee member. We have Joel.
It's in the blue bar, it says public meetings.
We're trying to get committee member Lopez on. It's just his computer's having an issue, so it shouldn't be more than a minute.
Okay.
You drop down to the agenda.
That's why I like being here.
Yeah. Go to.
FYI, Amanda Gallo just joined, so I just promoted her to a panelist. So as long as she turns on her camera and we know that she's here, we should be able to proceed.
There she is. Oh, she is.
Amanda, she is joining now.
Great.
Amanda Gallo is present.
Okay.
You want to do the roll again, Rodney?
Sure.
All right.
Rodney, please call roll.
Rodney Cobos.
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Amanda Gallo.
Here.
Jacob Lopez will join us soon. Henry Nutt has an excused absence. Thomas Ruiz.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance was taken during the executive committee, so I will not be asking for the Pledge of Allegiance during this meeting. CSLB staff participating in today's meeting include Enforcement Chief Steve Grove, Register David Vogt, Interim Chief Deputy Register Cindy Kanimoto, and Executive Office Staff Robin Williams, who will be taking home. In addition, we are fortunate to have DSA Board Counsel John Kim with us, should legal questions arise. Next
Excuse me, Jacob Lopez has joined.
Continue. Next is agenda item B, our public comment section. This item is provided for public comment pertaining to items not on the agenda. To allow this committee enough time to conduct its full schedule of business, I will be limiting public comment to 3 minutes apiece. Please note that state law prohibits committee members from discussing any matter brought up during public comment. We also are not allowed to act on any item not on the agenda. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask us to consider placing that issue on the agenda of a future meeting. If you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. Committee members are permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of the administrative record in the case. If your comments are related to a specific agenda item, then make your comments now. But you may want to wait until that item comes up for discussion. We will ask for public comment before acting on any item. Public Affairs Chief Catherine White is our host and moderator today. She will be assisting us by monitoring public comment. Members of the public, when you would like to comment at any time during the meeting, please select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application or leave a message with the chat feature. Do any committee members have an item they would like to place on a future agenda item?
One thing I want to note is that Jacob Lopez just sent a message saying that he's not able to hear audio on his end. But we're hearing audio here, so I'm not sure how we can assist him further at this point.
Maybe a cell phone.
Are we okay to proceed? Or do you need that?
Please proceed.
Thank you.
We'll try to get some audio for.
Okay. Okay, Catherine, are there any members of the public who wish to address the committee or to offer an agenda item for a future meeting?
Yes, there is. I will be sending Andrea Montano a request to unmute.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Enforcement Committee meeting, for having me here today. As echoed in some of the comments, and I hope that I have this separate from the additional agenda items, I'm trying to extract what's not on the agenda, to talk about some components for priority fraud mass prevention framework. I heard that there are some strengthening of partnerships with the district attorney's offices, which I'm really happy to hear about. Also wanted to plant some seeds about coordinated civil and criminal enforcement, as well as a rapid response legal assistance team. And in discussions with the district attorney partnership program, I know in the past there has been some rather an investigative handoff for prosecution or recommended prosecution or probable violation action. Instead, I would recommend a partnership to help with some of the fluidity of the conversations, could help with having some members of Contractors License Board, as well as district attorneys and attorney general offices. And they can act kind of as a swift team for mass fraud cases. And so information becomes relevant and patterns of activities are recognized faster. And this partnership would enable coordinated civil and criminal enforcement, allowing simultaneous administrative, civil and criminal proceedings against fraudulent contractors that are causing severe financial hardship for multiple victims. And in addition, I could recommend establishing a rapid response legal assistance team that can help with partnerships of legal aid and organizations to provide immediate support for victims navigating complex processes. For example, some of the big hitters like Patricia Cohen, Corey Lacey, Anchor Tiny Homes, Multitasker, and now some of our other companies that have come up where we can extend those bond requirements when we know that there are fraud happening where mass building is needing to occur. And these teams could offer standardized legal documentation preparation, group representation, education for similarly situated victims, and also coordinate prevention for bankruptcy counseling and extended support for creditors like us that are in defense mode during bankruptcy adversary proceedings. And so making all of these cases available in a single enterprise system would definitely help a lot of the prosecutors as well as the investigators speed up those actions. And so those adverse actions can be taken faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for your comments. I will turn it over to David Vogt to review. Any other comments from the public, Catherine?
Hi, you there?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay, good. My name is Roy Porter, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on enforcement. In full disclosure, I filed a complaint. I can give you the number. It's 24006315, and I won't go into details. Other than it was filed in October. And the people that I've had interactions with, including Miss Love and our special investigator Mabel and that person Sandy Speed, they've all been very nice, very professional. My issue
Mr. Carter, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is John Ken. I'm counsel for the board, and the committee cannot consider and should not be hearing any facts or regarding your complaint, no matter how general.
Can I just speak in general then?
Until I say you can't, fire away.
Okay. So what my comment is that I'd like to see that the CSLB speed up the time that it takes to do an investigation. I know I read your entire annual report, the 54 pages. There's some impressive data in there. I know you got 20,000 complaints last year. I was among those. And it's taking too long to get investigations going. It's so long that I've seen attorneys now say, if this was serious, the CSLB would act on it. The bonding companies are now saying CSLB isn't acting, so it can't be a big issue. And in my case, it's a lot of money, a lot of emotional strain. I'm a senior citizen. I'm now in court for more in legal fees than the mechanics lien that was filed on my property. So anyway, on a positive side, if you need somebody to talk to assemblymen or some other people to help get you some more resources or funding, I'm your poster child. I'm happy to talk to them. And, if we can do something to speed these up, I think it's going to improve your positioning with the public that you are a serious enforcement agency. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Roy, for your comments. Again, we will turn those over to David Vogt to handle your comments. Any other comments from the public?
Seeing none at this time.
Thank you. We are now moving on to.
Someone just raised their hand.
Okay.
I'm going to be calling on Aida Yorzar, and I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, Aida.
Awesome. My name is Aida, and I'm a member of the ACE, Alliance of California Community Empowerment. And I was a homeowner affected by home improvement scams. And my story is very similar to many members of ACE. Particular, my family story is we were scammed by a contractor named Viridi Construction, Inc. And that was in 2021, along with other families as well. So we want to know what is the the Contractor Licensing Bureau is doing to prevent scammers or scams that contractors are working with lenders and giving them home improvement loans to the vendors, and it's making it easier for these contractors to scam the families. In our case, we were scammed for $82,000, and along with other family members. So I mean, it's a large amount of money if you put it all together that contractor has taken from homeowners. We're talking about $6 million But one of the things that we are noticing from the California State Licensing Board is that it's taking a long time for the investigation to process or to at least get evidence or to contact all the victims. Another thing that I'm noticing with a lot of the homeowners that we experienced this scam from this contractor is that a lot of the victims were Hispanic, Latinos, and the investigators from the California State Licensing Board, they don't have the people that are acculturated or are bilingual or can provide services for the community, the Hispanic community. So what are you guys doing to resolve these issues for contractors that are mainly, targeting the Hispanic community, the most vulnerable community, because either they don't speak Spanish, they don't speak the language. And so what is it that the California State Licensing are doing to facilitate services for this community and prevent scams, especially to expedite the process as well? It's just that we see that it's just taking too long. Our case, for instance, it was filed in 2021. And
Miss Eureka, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
This is John Kinn again. The committee really can't hear specifics of your case or your complaint, but we certainly appreciate the concerns you've raised. And if you want to put your contact information in the chat, then maybe someone from enforcement or the admin can get a hold of you to discuss these matters.
Okay, we'll do that. We're currently working with Mr. Matthew Boyd, and hopefully my information can be provided to him. And I know that there's a currently investigation, but I know that the issue that we all have in these homeowners is like there's not a lot of communication given to us, and the investigation process is just taking too long.
You're at time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ida, for your comments. And like John had mentioned, we will turn your comments over to either David Vogt or someone at the department. Thank you. Okay, any other public comment?
Yes, we have public comment from Beto. I'll be sending him a request to unmute.
Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. We could hear you.
My comment kind of falls in line with most of the victims from scams from contractors, in general contractors. I myself was a licensed contractor. I unfortunately have been put out of business due to unfortunately a couple of separate scenarios. Some of them already noted by Andrea, in which I was a victim from under different circumstances by multiple contractors that have put me in the red in excess of $500,000 in the last 4 years. And the common scenario that I see is the lack of, I would say, oversight when it comes to qualifying individuals to be licensed. One of those scenarios is the RMO process, in which I don't believe there is enough oversight into the RMO process, where contractors, or in some cases, regular individuals that are not licensed in the business, that have no adequate experience or knowledge when it comes to contracting in the construction business in itself, in which they are enticing an individual that has a license to open a license for them, run the business on their behalf, and in the process end up scamming hundreds of people in some cases, in thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. these individuals, in most cases, have no relative knowledge when it comes to construction, and are practicing the business and learning as they go, and which in most cases end up failing the business and taking thousands of dollars from individuals. The other portion is the bonding requirements. I guess this would be more of a suggestion for a potential deterrent, I would say, that would force these individuals that are using RMOs where the RMO is not licensed, or I'm pretty sure on your side you can see when individual is the RMO RME for 2, 3, 4.
You have 30 seconds.
Instances. And the bonding requirements, if increased for these instances, along with increased relative to the exposure of the business financially, similar to like workers' comp is monitored, that would prevent a lot of these
Your time is
individuals
up.
from actually.
Just make sure that Catherine is.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. You know, and I'm going to refer to legal. I didn't catch his name, but Catherine, do we have you on the screen?
We have a first name, but yes, Beta, if you could please provide your contact information in the chat, we'll pass that information along.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments, Catherine?
No other public comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. We are now moving on to agenda item C, which is a review of a consumer filed complaint handling strategies. I will now turn it over to Enforcement Chief Steve Grove for this agenda item. Steve.
Thank you, Chair Kobos. The Enforcement Division protects California consumers by enforcing contractor state license law requirements. The division receives and processes consumer complaints, investigates contractors, and provides avenues for consumers harmed by licensed contractors to pursue financial redress. The great majority of California's approximately 285,000 licensed contractors and more than 30,000 registered home improvement salespersons comply with the state's contracting requirements. However, not all contractors obey the law, and not all consumers are satisfied with their contracting experience. Since July 1st, 2024, CSLB has received 9,300, can you go to the next slide, please? 9,317 complaints against licensed and unlicensed contractors. These complaints are assigned to a staff services analyst, SSA, in one of our 2 intake and mediation centers, or IMCs, located in Sacramento and Norwalk.
Slides are. We're stuck on the.
We're stuck on the slide. There we go. Complaints involving non-egregious misconduct by licensed contractors can often be resolved through CSLB staff complaint negotiation mediation. Obviously, we don't settle non-licensee complaints. They're all referred to an investigation center for legal action. Most consumer complaints filed with CSLB allege incomplete and defective work. In these cases, CSLB attempts to resolve the dispute and make the consumer financially whole when appropriate. So far this fiscal year, staff in our intake and mediation centers have settled a very impressive 31% of the licensee complaints and helped consumers recover $11,743,932 in restitution. Licensee complaints that are not settled in the intake mediation centers are transferred to one of 10 investigation centers located across the state. One of the goals of the intake mediation centers is to settle or transfer all complaints within 60 days. Currently, there are only 5 complaints over 60 days old in the IMC, which is very impressive. Next slide, please. Since July 1st, 2024, 4,245 complaints have been assigned to a CSLB special investigator. The current average caseload is a manageable 37. While the objective of the investigation centers is to investigate complaints for violation of law and not to settle licensee investigations, settlements can happen, for example, when a CSLB hired industry expert inspects the project and the licensee agrees to pay the consumer the estimated cost to correct and/or complete the project, and the complaint does not include an egregious or repeated violation of law. Approximately 10% of complaints have been settled in the investigation centers so far this fiscal year. Of the remaining complaints not settled, many result in administrative legal action against the licensee, which includes letters of admonishment, citations, and accusations seeking revocation of the license. Total of 1,493 complaints have been referred to administrative legal action this fiscal year. The most egregious contractor misconduct, such as elder abuse, predatory business practices, diversion of construction funds, unsafe working conditions, and unlicensed practice, may warrant criminal prosecution. Another 398 complaints have been referred to local district attorneys for criminal prosecution. Next slide, please. As you recall, in late 2023, the Enforcement Division created the Multiple Offender Unit, or MOU, to address contractors who routinely receive excessive consumer complaints, straining staff resources, resulting in high caseloads and aged cases. Contractors with 10 or more open complaints are referred directly to the MOU, bypassing the intake mediation centers, and all complaints against a specific contractor are assigned to a single investigator. MOU investigators take swift, aggressive action to persuade the contractor to resolve pending complaints and implement business practices that address their customer complaints before the customer finds need to file a complaint with CSLB. The MOU has made significant progress in its goal to address repeated patterns of misconduct among licensees. Since its inception, MOU has handled a total of 1,359 complaints, with 772 complaints closed and 587 currently pending. This sustained effort has led to 22 licensees being formally disciplined through the filing of accusations. These accusations collectively include 84 consumer complaints. Next slide, please. Of the 22 licensees referred to accusation, 23% have had their licenses revoked, underscoring the seriousness of the violations pursued by the unit. Currently, there are 17 accusations pending against contractors referred to the MOU. In addition to administrative enforcement, 2 licensees have had criminal cases referred to prosecution, demonstrating the MOU's commitment to pursuing the most severe cases through all available channels. Remarkably, the majority of this work has been carried out by a team consisting of 2 retired annuitants, former investigators at CSLB, and 1 full-time employee, highlighting both the efficiency and dedication of the unit. While the bulk of the investigative workload is centered on solar contractors, MOU has recently expanded its focus to include assignments related to accessory dwelling units, ADU contractors, reflecting a broader commitment to consumer protection across emerging areas of construction and development. As MOU continues to grow in scope and impact, its targeted approach remains vital in identifying and addressing repeat and high-risk offenders, thereby safeguarding consumers and upholding the integrity of the industry. I'm excited to report today that we have recently acquired 3 additional analyst positions for the multiple offender unit. We will begin conducting hiring interviews next week. With additional staff coming into the MOU, we will soon be able to begin referring contractors with 5 or more open complaints, as opposed to what we're doing now with 10 or more open complaints. This includes agenda item C. I will now turn it back over to you, Chair Kobos.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, do we have any committee members, do you have any comments or suggestions? Okay. Any public?
Yes, we have both Aida Nurazar and Andrea Montano both raising their hands. I will be sending Aida a request to unmute.
Good morning again. Thank you for the presentation. Very informative, but questions or maybe just concerns. Why is it only 5 licenses has been revoked and how long? And only 2 criminal cases have been enforced. What is the procedure? What is the time length that we're talking about for these vendors, for these contractors? That's just my concerns. I don't know the steps or to follow, and it will be very informative for us to know how long this process takes, because for us, for the people, for the homeowners, sometimes we want instant results, and sometimes we have to wait 5 to 7 years to hear this. And also another thing is that I know for the revoked licenses, for the contractor that I'm speaking, it was a 3-year that their license was revoked. Is there a reason for that? And can they apply after 3 years of the license being revoked to be reinstated again or not? Or can it be also permanent? Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And I understand that we have your contact information in the chat. And so either myself or somebody from enforcement will contact you and be happy to answer those questions.
Thank you again for your comments. All right.
And I'll be sending Andrea Montano a request to unmute.
Thank you again, Catherine, and thank you for allowing me to speak again. I kind of want to echo what I heard from Aida and Beto as far as I know that when we look at stats for first in, first out, how many open, pending, and closed, we also kind of want to consider what are the critical success factors and the key performance indicators we're using to measure our successes. For instance, how effective was the timeline in comparison to the catastrophic damages occurred? And, you know, and we're talking about liens, talking about legal fees that are stacking up, foreclosures, forbearances, business closures, and even displacement, and all the severe emotional hardship that comes with all of those things. It's not just that the money is gone, it's all of the things that people are continuing to fight after the money's been taken, and they have no recourse to continue, you know, everything is just kind of fallen flat. And so with that, the priority framework of components that I would like to suggest is, you know, in these IT systems and in these protocols for consumer file complaints and also these enterprise document systems, to also have a consideration for prioritization for financial hardship triage, as well as enhancing the BMP Code Section 71088 enforcement and cross-jurisdictional enforcement task force, which I had brought up before. And this framework could transform complaint handling by quickly identifying victims facing severe financial consequences, enabling targeted emergency relief. The system could be implemented through administrative action and create a standardized hardship assessment tool and priority classification system to help combat some of these systemic issues that are continuing to happen. We can recommend enhancing enforcement of this section code regarding diversion of funds by creating a rebuttal presumption that non-payment constitutes illegal diversion when a homeowner has paid. And this would streamline enforcement against some of the most harmful cases while also protecting the innocent contractors. For complaints indicating potential mass fraud, we could propose forming a cross-jurisdictional enforcement task force with joint investigative teams from multiple jurisdictions. In a lot of these cases, we aren't working with just a single DA. In the recent span of these cases, victims in different jurisdictions can receive dramatically different responses within the same immediate assistance, while others wait months for action. And a coordinated task force would ensure consistent, rapid response, regardless of the jurisdiction where the crimes are happening. That's all I have on that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for your comments. And I don't know if you placed your contact information in the chat box. And if you haven't, please do and follow up on your comments. Catherine, any other public comment?
Seeing none at this time.
Thank you. Now on to agenda item D, which is the review and discussion regarding alternate dispute resolution. Arbitration is when disputing parties submit their differences to a third-party professional who makes a final award for financial damages, if any. Many disputes between consumers and contractors can be resolved efficiently and in a timely manner through arbitration. The Contractor State License Board offers arbitration to resolve disputes that meet certain criteria. CSLB will pay for the hearing. The arbitrator and the one state-appointed expert witness, if appropriate. Only contractors in good standing with the CSLB qualify to participate in arbitration. CSLB will investigate complaints involving deceptive or fraudulent practices. Today, we are excited to have with us Karen Smith, President of MCC Arbitration, Mediation, and Conciliation Center, the arbitration provider for the CSLB. Karen.
Hi, can you hear me?
Ken.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for letting me be here today. I've been online since the beginning of the meeting today, and very interesting. I learned a lot. I especially enjoyed the training video. I think it was about 10 minutes, and I'm going to copy and paste that for our staff, so thank you. First thing I'm going to do you mind going to the next slide? Okay, there it is. I'm going to give you some facts, and then I'm going to give you just some personal perspective on the program. As you may already know, there's two types of arbitration. There's mandatory and voluntary. Mandatory is tied to the bond limit, which is currently $25,000, and that's where you send a case to us, we appoint the arbitrator, and then we render a decision. Voluntary is $25,000 to $50,000 disputes, or awards, I should say. I won't get too technical, but that's where the two parties agree to go to arbitration, and they can receive an award up to $50,000. I compiled some stats for you from this past year, 2024. We had 410 cases. The program has certainly ebbed and flowed over the years, and 410 cases is about average. I should actually, let me correct myself. We've had 410 awards. There have been other cases. The total amount awarded is close to $5 million, you can see on the screen. And one of the most important things I want to convey today is that is not restitution, that is not enforcement. When the parties come to us, the complainant and the respondent, which can be a homeowner and a contractor, or a general and a sub, they both come through our doors equally. I think Dave knows we've fought hard to maintain our unbiased status, and I think we have successfully done so. So when we look at this amount, some of that may have been awarded to a contractor. Let's say if there was an outstanding contract balance, or there weren't workmanship issues, or perhaps a homeowner overreached. So I would just like you to keep that in mind when you look at that number. One of the stats we were most proud of is that there is currently a 41-day turnaround this is average, from when we get the case in our doors, or over the internet, I should say, and when we turn around an award. I've heard a few times today that speed is a concern, so I don't know how long it gets to us, but once it gets to us, we prioritize it and we try to set a hearing date as quickly as possible. And as I go down to this list, I'll tell you why we've been able to improve our stats to 41 days to award. This is our 24th year of service to the CSLB. I'm particularly proud of that fact. We've established some really long-standing, valuable relationships, which I'm going to comment on. We have 4 new arbitrators. So the arbitrators really are the heart of this program. It's one of our challenges is to get appropriate arbitrators that meet all the qualifications of the CSLB, as well as have both the trade experience, but also the procedural expertise they need for this program. We have about, I'm going to guess off the top of my head, about a third of our arbitrators are attorneys, which is great because they certainly know the law, but also what is more important in my experience is that we have people that understand the trades and they know, let's say, the difference between concrete and cement. And then also to take in all the information from the different trades, know both sides of it, and then also be able to produce a award that is in layman's terms is truly an art form. And one of the things that we're constantly doing is refining our arbitrator panel. And when we can find the people that can master this and have all the requirements and all the licensing and everything else, it works out very well for us. So we're constantly refining this panel of our 4 new arbitrators, 2 our attorneys and 2 our non-attorneys. We send out, after every hearing, we will send out a evaluation form, and we take in the evaluation forms before the award is rendered. So if they send it after the award, that's not included in this calculation, because we realize that there's usually someone who prevails and somebody who doesn't prevail in these instances. And that will be reflected, but we like to find out how we're doing on the process and what they think of our arbitrators. And so on average, we've been able to maintain a 4.8 out of 5 evaluation on that, which we're also proud of and work hard for. And then what I said I was going to comment on later is our speed, which is the 41-day average turnaround. And I really, really credit that to our hearing options. Ever since COVID, everyone got really used to Zoom and using their phone. I'm on my phone right now doing this video, and being able to submit documents electronically. And that has helped us to be able to hear these cases faster. We can accept almost any format of documents, even snail mail. We do get the occasional request for in-person hearings. Most people we find don't want to be in person anymore. Even when offered that opportunity, they don't always take it. So teleconference and video conference, we have Zoom. Our arbitrators are on they use their video Zoom often, but the parties typically don't. We can do a hybrid. And that really allows us to process these cases as quickly as possible, because people don't have to drive anywhere. Nobody wants to drive anywhere anymore, we're finding, and everyone is very sophisticated with electronics. So those are the stats for you. Can you go one more slide if you don't mind, please? And then this is just more of my commentary on how the program's going. I've already mentioned it's quick. We have also advanced our systems to be able to do e-delivery of the hearing notices, of the awards, receive all of our documents electronically, and that has really sped up the process. I can't even imagine how we did it when everything was snail mail. So that has helped us also be more efficient and cost effective. And I think we're very cost effective for the CSLB as well, which I've been told, because we're a flat fee, no matter if it's voluntary or mandatory arbitration. When it comes through our doors, we will see it through to the end, regardless of if it takes 1 hearing day, 2 hearing days, if it takes 30 days, or if it takes 90 days. It's no difference to you. And it also doesn't cost the parties anything. It doesn't cost the homeowner, and it doesn't cost the contractor anything. So you can imagine if they're going to court, if they have to go in person, all the different scenarios they have, if they have to hire attorneys, which they can do in this instance. It's at no cost to them. So hopefully that is a benefit for the parties as well. It's binding. So when an arbitration is rendered, there's no appeal, and there's very limited reason to have it corrected. That's just the only recourse through us. So when you get that award, I think less than 1%, less than half of 1% will it ever get corrected, or certainly not vacated. So you can rely on that award being the final resolution of the dispute. It's private. If either party complies with the terms of the award, there's no disclosure. Again, I've already mentioned our professional arbitrators, and that's something we always strive to improve upon as well. I can't say enough about the staff that works for us. They've all been with us for more than 10 years. I think they have a relationship with your special investigators as well. And another benefit of that is they're very well versed in these processes, the Business and Professions Code 7085. We have a software program that allows us to make notes on every single phone call that goes in or goes out. And I think some of you have benefited from that because we can convey information that's come to us straight to you. And then it's also allowed us to have relationships with the CSLB people. I mean, when we have any kind of issue, we get a response from the CSLB the same day. Dave and Jesse and Steve Grove and Brian Melvin, and of course Jerry and the AGs, everyone is so responsive and helpful to us that I just value these relationships so much. And I think the longevity of being able to work with the CSLB and our staff members all together as a team allows us to create a program that's really beneficial to both the homeowners and the contractors. And we do have some challenges with this program. We have the parties are getting a little unhinged these days. I'll just say it that way. Some more than others. So that's always where we can rely on both the CSLB and the statutes to govern this process for us. And one of our other challenges or our goals is to increase our voluntary limits. Right now they're at $50,000. They've been at $50,000 for over 20 plus years. And I don't need to talk about inflation. I think we're all very familiar with that. And what happens there is if the homeowners want to use the arbitration program or the contractors want to use the arbitration program, but the contracts are just more than that. I mean, even the cases I've heard about today, they're all more than that. And so to limit their award to $50,000 might not make either party whole. So one of my goals would be to be able to increase the limits of the voluntary arbitration. And just a reminder, both parties have to agree to this voluntary arbitration. So they both have to buy into the process. It's free for them. If they go to court, it's going to cost them a very big fraction of that. My goal is to get up to $100,000, a very big fraction of that $100,000. So that would be one of my goals. And then one of my other goals for the program, I know CSLB has a lot of new staff. Jerry was kind enough to host me in Norwalk recently, and I would just like to increase that training if possible so that we're all on the same page. So that's it. That was my big fast presentation. If anyone has any questions or if we want to talk about the program, I'd love to.
Okay. Thank you, Karen, for the presentation. Great information for both the consumers and the contractor. So appreciate the presentation. Thank you. Okay. Committee members, do we have any comments or suggestions? Seeing none. Is there any public comment?
Yes, Andrea Motano has her hand raised, so I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Good morning, Andrea.
Hi. You guys are hearing a lot from me today. We haven't even got to the legislative meeting yet. So I actually really just want to applaud Karen's presentation. I think that this is a wonderful program that a lot of folks don't really know exist until they kind of get into a pickle and they, read their contracts and they realize that before they can take an additional step that, they need to kind of go through some type of an alternative resolution dispute. And so I would just encourage that, maybe we can get some marketing or online, social media, just some education that can be shared with the public, along with the, minimum down payments for a lot of the work This would just be a wonderful thing to share at Scam Stopper seminars and things of that nature, just to let people know that these programs exist and that they do have a first option to try to resolve at the lowest level before taking additional action. And so I just want to applaud this. I think this is a great thing, and I would love to see more education and outreach around this item. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, for your comments. Catherine, any other comments?
No other comments from the public at this time.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the review and discussion of contracting enforcement. At this time, I will turn it over to Enforcement Chief Steve to cover this item. Steve.
Thank you, Chair Kobos. Next slide, please. One of the current strategic objectives for enforcement is to address false advertising online and on social media to increase proactive enforcement and consumer awareness. To accomplish this, it will first be necessary to identify just how much illegal advertising is taking place, the methods used, and the geographical areas where it is most prevalent. This will require hiring a consultant to conduct a statewide study, which is already in progress in alignment with enforcement's strategic objective 2.2 that will be discussed next. After the study is completed, enforcement staff will collaborate with the consultant and CSLB administrative and public affairs staff to develop outreach, education, and enforcement strategies. Next slide, please. Staff have worked closely with the Sacramento State University's Population Research Center, or PRC, and Department of Consumer Affairs to develop a contract that should be executed on or before May 15th. Specific contract deliverables include PRC will develop an electronic survey in English and Spanish for review and testing by CSLB. Responses from the consumer survey will provide data to support determination of the resources needed to increase information and education provided to the public on the benefits of hiring a licensed contractor. Next slide, please. PRC will analyze existing data from CSLB internal and external sources to assess the approximate number of unlicensed contractors operating in California. The analysis will include an assessment of unlicensed contracting in declared disaster areas. CSLB will provide PRC with data via email from internal sources such as CSLB enforcement data and SWIFT. CSLB will provide a contact person for each data source to answer PRC questions about the data. CSLB will facilitate access to external data sources such as business licenses and county business permits. PRC will prepare an electronic report with the data collected that analyzes unlicensed contracting activity in California, including an assessment of unlicensed contracting in declared disaster areas. The report shall provide recommendations on the resources needed to effectively respond to consumer protection issues in relation to unlicensed activity. This report will be distributed electronically. The final report of the study is anticipated to be completed by November 30th of 2025. This includes agenda item E, and I will now turn it back over to you, Chair Kobos.
Thank you, Steve. Committee members, do you have any comments or suggestions? Seeing none. Catherine, is there any public comment?
Yes, there is. Andrea Matano has raised her hand, so I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Thank you.
I hope you guys know that I've had a lot of coffee this morning. All right, so for this particular item, just some additional things I wanted to bring up, and this is something I know that we're going to have a follow-up meeting about, and also talking, Lobby Day is coming up, when we're looking at additional enhanced enforcement for B&P codes 7108 and 7120, also emergency asset prevention orders and business continuity emergency programs. And my comment here is, while unlicensed contracting enforcement is critical, we also want to enhance that licensed contractors are committing mass fraud. and often occurring more extensive harm due to their ability to take on larger projects and perceived legitimacy. And we want to recommend balancing resources between unlicensed contracting and fraudulent licensed contractor enforcement, while emphasizing on case causing severity financial hardship, and specifically recommending implementing an emergency asset preservation orders that could apply to both licensed and unlicensed contractors where evidence suggests fraud is affecting multiple victims. And these orders could help with dissipation of assets needed for victim recovery, and could also implement using existing court mechanisms. And so for victims of both licensed and unlicensed contractors, we think the business continuity emergency program could prevent business failures in a contractor ecosystem through emergency bridge funds, potentially loans, or affected subcontractors, and a payment prioritization system for critical vendors. And these approaches could help with cascading economic damage that are following some of these major fraud cases. And so just kind of, looking at some features and some capabilities within some of these models that could be looked at for future enhancement programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Andrea. Okay, any other public comment?
Yes, we have a comment from Davi Rodriguez. I'll be sending him a request to unmute.
About this outreach and providing guidance on that, I have been asking for quite some time for the board to do an outreach to artists. The artist demographic or community, whatever you want to call it, largely believe they are immune to prosecution for violating the state contractor's license law. I have worked very diligently and thoroughly in this area because the cities I brought before the board earlier in the past couple of years about the municipalities hiring unlicensed contractors to install art all over. And these contracts are rather large. Some of them even got over $1 million. And the contract that they're signing with them are not licensed. It has reached an epidemic to me because these government bureaucrats and even elected representatives are willfully evading the law at this point. I can prove that. I mean, it's pretty much a conspiracy among them. Because that's kind of a separate thing. The community, I know the board addressed an outrage to the issuing agencies along the state, but the artist community themselves, they need to be brought into this because they do not believe law applies to them. And once the cities and counties hire them illegally to do a job, it emboldens them. You can go on to their websites and see all the jobs that they posted that are well over $1,000, and where they're soliciting for more work, and there's no nothing on their advertisements that say they're unlicensed. They just, like I say, they believe they're immune to this thing, that they're exempted. So I asked for that the board specifically target that demographic as an outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could stay on the line, I do apologize. I didn't catch your name at the beginning.
I'm sorry?
I did not catch your name at the beginning. You started speaking and I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm Davey Rodriguez.
David, okay, thank you.
What? I'm sorry. I have suffered a grand amount of hearing loss recently, and this electronic communication complicates that.
No problem. We could hear you, and I feel the pain with the hard hearing. So thank you for your comments, David.
You bet.
Catherine, any other public comments?
Yes, we have a public comment from Aida Yurzar, and I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Thank you.
Hi there. Thank you again. One comment that I wanted to make is that I love this assessment and the outreach that you guys are going to do to the community. However, one thing that I see that you guys are missing is that you guys are not assessing or investigating the sales agents or the sales persons that these contractors have or hire. Now, these sales agents also need to have a license with the California State Licensing Board, but a lot of them are not having this license, and they are there in the community promoting business for contractors, and that's also where the fraud is coming. A lot of these sales agents are pretending to be or to have a license from the CSLB, but they don't. Sometimes they do get it, but they let it expire. And that's how they start convincing people in the community to hire them and eventually contact them, connect them with a contractor. So we can see that the snowball of the fraud continues with them. So like I said, I love the fact that you're doing outreach for the contractors and everybody else, but you guys are forgetting the sales agents as well, the salespersons. They also need to have a license with you guys, but a lot of them are not having them and they're pretending to be, licensed when they're not. So I just wanted to, bring that up so you guys can probably, do some investigation or add it into the assessment as well. Thank you.
Thank you again for your comments. All right. Any other public?
No other public comment at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. This concludes the Enforcement Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn the Enforcement Committee?
Motion adjourned.
Okay, we're going to move into legislation next.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Can you get the motions, please, Sarah?
I think Miguel motion.
Miguel motion doesn't need a second
You
or.
don't need this, doesn't need a second.
Just-
Miguel made the motion.
There was a second.
Second.
No, we're good.
All good.
Okay.
Thank you. We are adjourned.
And Joel's at Norwalk.
I am.
So Joel, are you ready to go?
I certainly am.
Excellent.
I just promoted Diana to the panel, and I believe we have all the other board members, all the other committee members on 4+1.
We're ready. We'll get started. The legislative committee meeting dated April 11th. Call to order, roll call, establishment of quorum, and chair introduction. Good morning. The time is like 11? Thank you. Call to order the April 11th, 2025 meeting of the Contractors State License Board Legislative Committee and 12 Barton Legislative Committee Chair. Please note that only board members who are members of the Legislative Committee may participate in this committee meeting. Other board members who are in attendance may observe but cannot ask questions or participate in the discussion. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss bills pending before the legislature that are of interest to the CSLB. Because this teleconference committee meeting is remote, committee members cannot make recommendations or motions. However, committee members can gather, discuss, and receive comments from the public. Committee members, we will be using cameras during this meeting. Law requires committee members participating in this meeting to have their cameras on. Please have your camera on for the duration of the meeting. When you would like to comment during the meeting, please select the raise your hand icon in the WebEx application. Our moderator will call on committee members to speak. When called upon, please unmute yourself, and when finished, return to mute. Robin, please call roll and confirm we have a quorum.
Joel Barton,
Here.
Rodney Cobos,
Here.
Miguel Galarza.
Here.
Amanda Guy has an excused absence. Diana Love.
Here.
Joseph Preciado.
Here.
Thomas Ruiz.
Present.
Quorum.
Thank you, Robin. CSLB staff participating in today's meeting include Registrar David Pope. I think Chief Legislative Director Rebecca May is here.
No, Rebecca was not able to make it today, so Mike Cheminsky and I will be covering for her.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So we do have Special Projects Manager Mike Cheminsky and Executive Office Staff Robin Williams. We're also fortunate to have with us John Kin, DCA Board Counsel, and Chief of Public Affairs Catherine White is moderating this meeting. We'll now move on to Agenda B. Public comments for items not on the agenda and future agenda item requests. Agenda item B is an opportunity for members of the public to provide comment regarding items not on today's agenda. State law prohibits committee members from discussing any items not on the agenda. If you want the committee to discuss a topic not on the agenda, you can ask the committee to consider placing that issue on the agenda of a future meeting. If your comment is related to a specific agenda item, please wait until that item comes up. We will ask for public comment on each agenda item. Lastly, to allow this committee enough time to conduct a full schedule of business, public comments are limited to 3 minutes apiece. Chief of Public Affairs Catherine White is our host and moderator today. She will assist us by monitoring public comment through WebEx. Members of the public who would like to comment at any time during the meeting, please select raise your hand icon on the WebEx application or leave a message with the chat feature. First, I will ask if any committee members have items they would like to place on a future agenda item. Seeing no additional comments by committee members, I will now turn to the general public comment. For this agenda item and future agenda items, I will start with members of the public in Sacramento and then move to members of the public attending via WebEx. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding items not on today's agenda or to offer an agenda item for a future meeting? Hearing none, Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to address the committee regarding items not on today's agenda or to offer an agenda item for a future meeting?
Yes, Andrea Montano has her hand raised, so I will be sending her a request to unmute.
Thank you again, Catherine, and thank you for having me here today. I do want to start with, for the items that I'm about to speak to, I would like to formally request to have this added as a future agenda item. I will send in a written request for that along with some of the other things that I had mentioned, but it was more targeted for this meeting, and so I hope that we can create a placeholder for that. For this particular, we were looking at the framework components relating to construction fraud enforcement enhancements, emergency mass fraud response protocols, and Construction Verification and Certification Act, where the Construction Industry Protection Framework had identified critical legislative needs to address emergency response for mass fraud and severe hardship cases. We urged the committee to consider sponsoring an enforcement act that could establish dedicated funds for specialized construction fraud prosecution units, create enhanced sentencing guidelines for multi-victims construction fraud, implement victims restitution priority for construction fraud cases, and establish cross-jurisdictional authority for regional fraud schemes. In addition, we'd like to recommend codifying an emergency mass fraud response protocol that could initially be implemented through administrative action, and this could establish a permanent framework for rapid response to mass fraud events and provide sustainable funding for a catastrophic fraud recovery fund. In prevention, our proposed Verification and Certification Act could also establish standardized verification protocols for architectural certification of project milestones, preventing payment phase fraud that is the root cause of many catastrophic events. That is all I have for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine, did you see anyone else?
There's no other public comment at this time.
Thank you. So we'll move
Oh,
on.
wait, never mind.
Yep.
Someone just raised their hand. Sorry about that. Roy Porter just raised his hand, so I'll be sending him a request to unmute.
A question, because I see in the legislation that there's like 9 bills before you. Do you talk about each bill individually, or is this just in general?
Yeah, we'll talk about them in general. Because this is not an in-person meeting, we'll not be voting on any of them. That'll be I believe we have a meeting in June in person, but this is just to introduce them and to get input from the public or any other committee meeting members on how to respond. We will be reading it, and staff's recommendation to support if amended, and that will be mentioned with each reading.
Okay, so I wanted to make comment on 2 of the bills that are pending. Should I do that now, or?
No, if you would do it once we read the bill, we'll ask for
okay, great.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Catherine, anyone else?
Seeing none at this time.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to item C. This is review and discussion of the 2025-2026 pending legislation. We have 9 bills on today's agenda for discussion. Because this committee meeting does not have an in-person quorum, we're not voting on any positions. While we're not voting on positions today, staff provided and recommended positions for use in our discussions. I will provide a brief summary of each bill status before opening it up for discussion. We'll start with item 1, which is AB 485 Ortega. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. AB 485 is currently on suspense in the Appropriations Committee. This bill requires CSLB to deny a license or license renewal if the Labor Commissioner determines the licensee or applicant is in violation of an unsatisfied judgment related to the non-payment of wages. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to either David or Mike.
Thank you, Chair Martin. I'll take this one. Just some real quick background. CSLB has a statute that relates to this. It's Business Professions Code 7145.5. And we look at what we accomplished with that last year. It resulted in the recovery of almost $39 million in penalties or outstanding liability to other state agencies. So this bill doesn't directly impact the CSLB because we already have the authority, but we put it in the packet to get your opinion on whether or not this is something that you think the board may want to support. Something else to think about as we cover these 9 bills. Do you think these bills are of such importance that they should be included at the June board meeting where we can take a vote and you can take an official position? The board does carry some weight in the legislature when they take a position to support or oppose. But that's the reason for this. So it's just for a discussion item. Do you think this is important that the board would support this? It would give the same authority we have here to say the architects or engineering board, or just leave it up to them. So that's really it for discussion.
Thank you, Dave. And staff has recommended a neutral position on this item. And I'll save my comments unless feel appropriate. I think it's something we should look into. Anyone else on the committee, would they like to make comments or discussion on this item?
Chair?
Yes.
So, point of fact is when we speak about wages and payment of non-wages, does Ortega define what wages means? Are wages minimum wages? Are wages prevailing wages? Does the statute define what wages mean?
Yeah, that's Miguel. Thank you for that in a way, and that's some, I'm always speaking with Legislative Director May, and I had the same question whether it involves benefits also. And this is basically a judgment which would include any wages according to the way we talked about. And again, I do stress and understand your question about whether it's daily or it's cumulative, and I think that's something we should look into.
Yeah, if I could just add that the way we look at this, it's a civil wage and penalty assessment that's issued by the Division of Labor Standards Enforcement. And so, you know, I kind of gave you a general number for other state agencies, but for that, it was $4.6 million last year. So it could be anything. It could be, you know, any employee that files a claim saying, I didn't receive my wages, or it could be prevailing wage. For that scope, though, it's not going to include, like, not withholding payroll taxes as an example. It's going to be a civil wage and penalty assessment.
Thank you, registered folk. That helps me understand. So the trigger is actually a DIR, a judgment.
Like CSLB, we don't do an independent investigation, so we wait for the partnering state agency to complete their investigation. And my understanding of this bill is that would be the same requirement. Again, it wouldn't change any of our authority here, but it might be helpful if, as an example, the architects board or the engineering board could suspend their license if there was an outstanding civil wage and penalty assessment. But we took a neutral, recommended a neutral just because we haven't had a chance to talk to other state agencies as to their opinion of this. But we wanted to see if we should do that, and if you think we should include it at the joint June board meeting.
Right. Thank you, Registrar Folk. Any other committee members would like to comment or make suggestions?
Chair, this is Thomas Ruiz.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. I do like this one. I mean, wage theft is rampant, especially when you're in the industry and tracking some of these folks. So I would like to see it on the June meeting for discussion. And I do like that it's a judgment only when it's a judgment, not just an allegation. So I would like to see it in June.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas. Any other committee members?
No, that was the same thing with Thomas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Same thing.
Ditto with Rodney. Any other committee members like to comment or discuss?
Chair, this is Joseph Preciado. I appreciate Registrar Folks' recommendation in terms of doing some additional research to find out what other states may be doing and what actions could potentially be taken, and take that into advisement prior to taking a position on this particular bill.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I agree also. And Registrar Folk, this is something we could make a recommendation at our June meeting, correct?
You could definitely you can take a vote on it at the June board meeting if we include it on the agenda.
Right.
You can decide at that point if you would like to support it or oppose it.
Okay.
Support.
Thank you, Dave. I think the consensus is to look further into it and then have it on an item for our June meeting to either stay neutral, support, or not support. So if you would do that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Any other committee members? All right, I'll now turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding AB 485?
Yes, Richard Markuson.
Yeah, good morning. Richard Markuson to the Western Electrical Contractors Association. We would certainly agree that this is a important measure for the board to consider at your next meeting. I would point out that it is on the suspense file because of the costs that are associated with it. But I think it would be helpful as the legislature considers advancing this to hear the success stories from the CSLB as to how you have been using your existing authority to go after wage theft, which is something that plagues the industry substantially. We are supporting the measure and would encourage the board to consider it in June, assuming that it gets off of suspense.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in Sacramento? Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on AB 485?
Yes, Andrea Montano has her hand raised, so I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Okay.
Thank you again, and thank you again, committee, for hearing my request. I would like to also support including it on the June meeting agenda, and also support AB 485 and where it's at now, even though there are some fiscal challenges there. I just kind of want to broaden the perspective for some potential future enhancements and give kind of a humanized, experienced approach as to why recommending this and to incorporate key elements for a framework that could also expand for emergency response, because it is a rampant issue that's happening for employees alongside contractor subs and customers when fraud occurs, and create an expedited potential license suspension process when wage theft affects multiple projects or employees indicated by potential mass fraud, establish a coordinated enforcement protocol between the Labor Commissioner, CSLB, the district attorneys, and also with the Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division, and look at the provisions for a potential business continuity emergency program, like I had mentioned before, where potential emergency funds for employees can be in consideration, as they are also victims in a lot of these frauds when serial wage theft occurs. And when looking at this enhanced approach, and again, we're going to take this also to legislators, looking at transforming AB 45 from a reactive enforcement tool to a proactive prevention system that could identify potential mass fraud before it escalates to a catastrophic level. And so when, thinking about the situation in the case of this particular contract, we went to the California Labor Commissioner, had filed those claims, as well as the Department of Labor and Wage and Hour Division. And unfortunately, they couldn't take a position because the company had already gone insolvent. And so they did defer as to the California Labor Commissioner. We know that those wage theft claims are approximately 2 years out plus to even see a judgment. And then when you throw a bankruptcy complexity layer on top of that, it just, makes that systemic process even worse. And so taking an employee who had worked and already, and just didn't receive a paycheck, and the company folds, they kind of get left holding the bag in numerous ways. Not only do they not have a job, but they don't have a way to recover for the work they've already performed alongside subcontractors. And so having kind of a transparent handshake with a lot of these other agencies could greatly improve, I think, mitigating those risks, as well as helping with recovery for several employees that are still working through these crises. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Are there any other members on WebEx?
Seeing none at this time.
Thank you, Catherine. So we'll close item 1. Let's move on to number 2, AB 667 Solace. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. AB 667 passed out of the Assembly Business and Professions Committee and is in the Committee on Health. This bill requires programs under the Department of Consumer Affairs, including CSLB, to allow applicants to use an interpreter to interpret the licensing examination. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Mike Jametsky.
Yes, thank you, Chair Barton. AB 667 really actually puts into statute largely what CSLB already does with regard to its translations and its exams. As you mentioned, Chair, it does require boards and bureaus to allow applicants to use a translator to have the exam read to them, which CSLB already does. This bill will define what an interpreter is and define when they can and cannot be used, which we already do. Really, the only difference between our current processes and what this bill would require is provide that we collect some data and report it, which is doable. So that's really all to add on this. I don't think it's a big lift. We just wanted the board to be aware of it. So I don't have anything else to add, unless anybody online or with the committee would like to comment.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And staff has recommended a neutral position on this bill. I'd like to now open the agenda item up for discussions by committee members. Are there any comments or questions from committee members regarding AB 667? All right, seeing no additional comments by the committee members, I will now turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding AB 667?
No.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on AB 677?
None at this time.
Looks like it's 667. I apologize. All right, thank you. So with that, let's close item 2. We'll move on to item 3, AB 742. El Hawari. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental materials. AB 742 passed out of Assembly Business and Professions Committee and is in the Committee on Judiciary. This bill requires programs under the Department of Consumer Affairs, including CSLB, to prioritize applicants seeking licensure who are descendants of American slaves. Status on the descendant of a slave would be confirmed by a newly established Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery. The passage of this bill is contingent on the formation of the Bureau, which is included in another bill. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Registrar Vogt. David?
Thank you, Chair Barton. Our goal is to provide timely processing of applications for all applicants. We do occasionally expedite an applicant, and that one example would be an applicant that's going to employ numerous workers so that you can ask for an expedited process. What we're really talking about here is shaving 2 to 3 weeks off the processing time. The applicant would still need to meet all of the requirements to become licensed. We are, from a staff perspective, recommending a support of this bill because we think it falls in line with the board's goals that we've had for the last couple of years, and that is to reach out to underrepresented communities, to do what we can to help qualified applicants from those communities obtain a license. So that would be staff's thoughts on it, but we certainly welcome the committee's thoughts on this bill.
Thank you, Dave. And staff has recommended support position, which I do recommend also. And I would ask any of the committee members if they'd like to make comment or recommendations regarding AB 742. Okay, seeing no additional comments by the committee members, I will now turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding AB 742? Okay, hearing none. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on AB 742?
Seeing none at this time.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 4, AB 1002, Gabriel. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. AB 1002 is pending the Assembly Business and Professions Committee. This bill would authorize the Attorney General to file a civil action to suspend, revoke, or deny licensure of a contractor for failure to pay workers or failure to comply with a wage judgment or court order. I will turn the discussion over to DCA Board Counsel John Kinn. I think who's going to make comment on this.
Thank you, Chair Barton. Yes, I just wanted to explain the background, which was some wage violations made by a very large subcontractor down in Southern California. The Attorney General, as they are entitled to do, brought a civil action against the contractor for the wage violations. But CSLB was not aware of it immediately. So CSLB was fielding calls about a case that had not yet been brought to their attention. So this bill was motivated originally by a CSLB request to receive notice of any AG civil actions affecting licensure or any of its licensed contractors. And although I believe staff agrees with the intent of the bill, it's changed a little bit to also allow the suspension and what's in the statute now, permanent revocation, without including a lot of things that CSLB options they have now, including letters of admonishment, citations, probation, monitoring. So while agreeing with the intent, I believe staff's current recommendation is to continue to meet with the Attorney General's office so that the concerns about implementing this bill with CSLB could be worked out while still providing the Attorney General with the authority they're looking for to get some of the harmful construction activities out of the market. And I'm not sure how many questions I could answer, but I'm certainly open if anyone has any requests.
Thank you, John. And I believe staff has recommended a neutral position on it, probably pending your explanation of it that we're already doing that. But I would now like to open this agenda item for discussion by the committee members. Are there any comments or questions regarding AB 1002? Rodney.
Thank you. Yeah, I would also like to have this bill placed on the June agenda.
I agree. Thank you, Rodney. Registrar Vogt.
Yes, we'll put that on the agenda for the June 13th board meeting.
Thank you, sir. Any other committee members would like to discuss or speak on this item? All right, thank you. Seeing no additional comments by committee members, I will now turn to the public comment. Are there any public members in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding AB 1002?
There is one.
Yeah, thank you, Richard Marcus. I'm curious. I appreciate Mr. Ken's description of the case. We watched the case as well. That I think we'll get into this. But I'm a little curious to know if CSLB staff or you know if the AG prosecuted in that case why they think that they need the additional statutory authority. And I think from the contractor's perspective, we would be concerned if there is a different standard for license suspension or revocation that is given to the Attorney General that differs from the Contractor State License Board. It seems to I think from the contractor's perspective that having two different standards for discipline against contractors by different state agencies, some that might be more politically motivated than others, is going to be a problem.
Yeah, if I could comment on that, thank you, Mr. Marcuson. One thought we had is to work with the author to clarify the intent of this bill. We have for many years worked with local DAs on what we call Business Professions Code 17-200 and 500. These are the civil statutes that relate to unfair practice. And generally, when you're involved in that type of investigation, you're not seeking revocation of the license. It's more about getting civil penalties, in this case, getting workers the wages that they're owed. In the event that they don't, it's more of a civil judgment. What we will generally do is have a companion accusation. We use the administrative process to discipline and if necessary to revoke the contractor's license. And I think the question is well put. Why do they need additional authority to take this on when the AG has the authority to file an unfair business practice? I guess the question is, to what extent can CSLB be on the caption and part of the action? But what I was hoping for, what really asking the committee to do is support staff reaching out to the author to further clarify the need and intention of this bill.
Thank you, Registrar Folk. I think that would be the direction if anyone, unless anyone objects. All right, thank you for that. Seeing none and no more in Sacramento. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on AB 1002?
Not seeing any. Oh, wait, never mind. Andrea Montano just raised her hand, so I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Thank you.
Thank you. No comment at this time, but I do have a question. I'm wondering, is there, and maybe it's in the Business and Professional Code, where it talks about the levels of disciplinary action from suspension to revocation and timeframes. Is there a published document that indicates what that escalation procedure looks like?
Thank you. I guess I would ask John Kim Esquire, would you be able to comment or to produce that document?
Be happy to respond to anything in the chat that you have a request about, and we could provide that information. I think there were a number of questions you just asked, and I'd hate to give you wrong information at this time.
My question is specific to just a document that shows the civil action from a suspension to a revocation, if we have anything that shows that escalation process or criteria.
Not in the context of a civil action that I'm aware of.
We have administrative action information. The information you're requesting is located in several different places, and we can piece it together for you, and I'll work with you on that offline.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, is there anyone else on WebEx, Catherine?
Seeing none at this time.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to number 5, AB 1341 Hoover. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. AB 1341 is pending in the Assembly Business and Professions Committee. This bill would provide that unlicensed practice in architecture, engineering, or land surveying is cause for disciplinary action by CSLB. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Dave Folk. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Chair Martin. Just a little update on this, and that Mike Kudinski and I had a meeting yesterday with the executive officers of the engineering board and the architects board. That would be Rick Moore and Laura Zuniga, to talk about this bill, to see how this would impact their programs, do they support it, and it was quite educational. What this bill would do is, if we have a CSLB licensed contractor that is found to be acting unlicensed as an architect or an engineer, or if they have a licensed engineer architect that's also licensed by CSLB and committing a violation of their Practice Act, they would refer that over to CSLB for action, for taking action on our license at CSLB. The question was, how often do they think this would occur? And the answer for both of them was about 20 times a year. So we could be potentially looking at 40 additional investigations. But if you compare that to the 20,000 we're already doing, it's not that significant. I think it could be helpful. I think in engaging with other regulatory bodies to combat the unlicensed underground economy helps the public as a whole. And so looking at it from that perspective, we did have a neutral on this, but we're now wanting to know if the committee would be in support of this bill.
Thank you, David. We would do that at the June meeting, correct?
Well, yes, if you decide that this is of relevance to the committee, we'll include this as a bill for the board to take a formal vote on at the June 13th meeting.
Yeah, I think that's the direction, so I appreciate that. If you would, I would now like to open the agenda item up for discussion by the committee members. Are there any comments or questions regarding AB 1341 from committee members? And we'll bring that up on our June item. Seeing no additional comments by committee members, I will now turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding AB 1341?
Mr. Marcus.
David, I assume from your conversation with Rick and Laura that as I understand the bill, this is primarily A or B contractors that are performing some aspects of civil engineering or land surveying without the appropriate license in either of those professions as part of their construction services. And so it would seem that 20 number is potentially a little bit on the high side. I don't know how frequently that would happen where an A or B contractor doesn't have a licensed land surveyor or a civil engineer. But I think coordination between, I doubt that it happens very often in architecture, but certainly between the engineers board and CSLB, I think it's worthy of taking further consideration in June. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. And they did think the 20 could be on the high side. They've not done a study of it, so we're comfortable with that.
Thank you, Registrar Folk. Thank you for that comment too. Moderator, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on AB 1341?
Yes, Andrea Motano's hand is raised, so I'll be sending her a request to unmute.
Catherine, I might be a little fuzzy on this, and so if I am, I apologize in advance. But my notes on this were, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's kind of bridging that partnership with the architectural and engineering certification piece of it. And to some of my previous comments, I had mentioned about some of these kind of independent verification systems, IT collaboration systems. The architect could also play a critical role in, preventing fraud because of this third-party dynamic that they share with contractors. And so I don't know if recommending that amendment, and again, I'd have to take this back to the legislature also to ask some more questions, but potentially looking at a standardized, documentation requirement verification of project milestones, that kind of falls in line with some of their checks and balances, as well as a liability framework for certification related issues. So CSLB has a vantage point for those views into these other parties, and potentially establishing like a cross-disciplinary enforcement procedure between the architects board and CSLB. I don't know if that information may already be shared between agencies. I'm not sure, but that balancing approach would not only prevent unlicensed practice, but also harness, excuse me, architectural expertise to prevent fraud before it occurs. And so I just kind of want to layer that factor in where that could be potentially an advantage for other benefits in the context of fraud. And so if it hasn't already been mentioned, I think this would be a great one to also put on the June agenda.
Hey, thank you. And I think we are. So, Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx still who wish to comment on AB 1341?
Seeing no others at this time.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we'll go to item 6, SB 61 Cortese. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. SB 61 passed on consent out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, passed Senate floor, and it is in second house. Mike, is this the case?
Thank you for asking. I don't think it's in second house yet. I was going to I checked today. I don't think it is. I think it's in the Senate floor. Thank you for double checking. I appreciate it.
Okay, great, thank you. And this bill would limit the amount of a retention payment withheld from a payment for a private work of improvement for exceeding 5% of the payment or contract price. Staff recommended a support position. This bill does not present any additional workload requirements to CSLB and may provide enhanced subcontractor solvency. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Registrar Vogt.
Thank you, Chair Barton. This bill, it relates to our authority under Business Professions Code 7120 to address a contractor, a prime, or they call them direct contractor. If somebody has a direct contract with the property owner that's paid in full or paid for the work performed by the sub and doesn't pay the subcontractor timely, they withhold money. So they've been paid for the subcontractor's work, and then they are in the private sector withholding 10%. And what we discovered in looking at this bill is that in public works now it's 5%, private works is 10%. And that does pose a harm to subcontractors. Some of them are smaller contractors. They have a tough time surviving until they're able to collect on that 10%. And I know that direct or prime contractors withhold it because they want to have that leverage if there's callbacks or additional repair work that needs to be done. But when we looked at it from a staff perspective, we thought, why is it 10% in private works and 5% in public works? Seems like 55% for both. It might help to reduce some complaints that we receive here and just kind of level the playing field for private and public works. That was staff's perspective on this bill.
Yeah, thank you, Registrar Vogt. And then my discussion with Legislative Director May yesterday, I agreed with your surmising of this, that it should be on par with, it should be 5% would make it easier for public works and private works. So I would recommend support also, and we should bring this up at our June meeting. And I would like to open up for discussion by the committee members. Are there any comments or questions regarding SB 61 from committee members? Okay, hearing none. No comments
Miguel
by.
raised his hand.
Yes.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Just a comment that I might share, and that's not to say that this issue was not considered. But oftentimes on public works, there are bonds that protect the client. And so there's a secondary protection in the sense of a payment and performance bond that are attached to the contract that provide that additional protection to the public entity. And in the case of private work, it's very rare that there is a performance and payment to protect, to equal that same protection. And it just a thought that maybe that hasn't been considered as to why that there is a separation or a distinction between private and.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that expertise on that. So yeah, I think then we should bring this up in June. I thank you again for that, that knowledge that you presented. So any other committee members like to comment on SB 61? Okay, thank you. Seeing no additional comments by committee members, I will now turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding SB 61?
I do know, Richard Marcus, and I do know that there are amendments that I believe are pending on this one to address some of the opposition from developers and general contractors. I haven't seen the language yet, but I'm sure that Rebecca will see them when they go into print or before. I think it would be valuable for you to look at those before making your decision in June. But I'm sure that you will by your June meeting.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take a look at the further discussion in the legislature regarding this bill.
Thank you very much. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on SB 61?
Seeing none at this time.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 7, SB 342 Umberg. There's a brief summary of this bill in the supplemental materials. Staff were advised last week that this bill is being held in the Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee and is not moving in 2025. Barring any objections, let's move on to the next bill on this list, being it will not be brought up this year. Any objections? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 8, SB 456 Ashby. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. SB 456 is pending the Senate Appropriations Committee. This bill creates a narrow exemption from licensure for artists who paint murals. The bill defines a mural as a unique work of fine art that is protected by copyright, trademark, label, or patent that is drawn or painted by hand directly upon an interior or exterior wall or ceiling, fixture, or other apertures of a building or structure. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Mike Jametsky. Mike?
Thank you, Committee Chair Barton. Yeah, this bill is jointly sponsored by the California Arts Advocates and the League of California Cities. And just to let the committee members know, staff has been working, staff has experience in crafting exemptions from the contractors law. So we've been working with the author staff and committee staff on just making sure the words and the language get parsed out. And really, I think the goal of some of the staff and the author staff are to really differentiate the work of what is fine arts for a mural and what is requiring of a license where you're applying products and materials to walls. And how do you write down in words what's the difference? That's been our involvement. So that's it. Thanks.
Go ahead, Mike. Thank you for that. And currently staff recommends neutral, but what I'm getting from your comments is we probably should look into this further and bring it up at the June meeting.
Yes, if you think this would be relevant for the full board to discuss, absolutely.
Yeah, without objection, I think so, because we've had the comment regarding this issue in the past. And if I recall, the body of the bill had a threshold of $1,000, so it kind of did something, but I think maybe staff should look more into this, and we should up in June.
Chair.
Without objections?
Chair, if I might. Could Mike Jametsky maybe add further clarity as to whether this artwork exemption is on existing substrates, or does the exemption not cover newly constructed substrates to put the art on?
It's a great question, Miguel, because staff talked about that with committee staff. We stuck in the word appurtenances. Appurtenances. And that word is an old word, and it's a property word, and it's in our license classifications for the C33. And my understanding is it just kind of covers land and like a tool shed on land, or a separate garage, or sidewalks, or a tree, or a fence. So it would be my understanding at this time that the mural would apply to an interior or exterior wall or ceiling, a fixture, or other appurtenances of a building or structure. So I think just, if you can imagine a plot of land and then the things on it, and you can extend it to sidewalks, brick walls, a wall, interior wall, exterior wall, interior ceiling, exterior ceiling, interior freeway. I think it covers the gamut, but that's just one person speaking.
Thank you, Mike. And the only reason I bring that up is we've had issues in our jurisdiction where artists were given exemptions for not necessarily murals, but for artwork, which then required extensive foundations. to mount the artwork, which clearly was contract work that they were not licensed for or authorized to, but they were given this exemption without clarity as to what, with that exemption is required. So I just want to make that point of order.
Another excellent point. This is limited expressly and clearly to a mural. And it's anybody who draws, paints, applies, executes, restores, or conserves a mural on a building. Painting or drawing. It does not include the installation of steel or other structural works.
Waterproofing.
Yeah, right. Oh, and it excludes painted wall signs because we have a license classification for that. So that's excluded. And it also has to be pursuant to a legally, an owner who can legally authorize the contract, which means it's not going to cover graffiti.
Thank you for that, Miguel, and thank you, Mike. I think this warrants further investigation, and we should bring it up at the June meeting. Are there any objections to that? All right, thank you. Any other comments or discussion from committee members in regard to SB 456? Or actually, yeah, 3456. All right, seeing none, I will now turn public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding SB 456?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on SB 456?
Yes, and we also have a commenter from the prior item who commented after we had passed to this item. So I'll be calling on him first. That's Roy Porter, and then we'll go to the other comment.
Great, thank you.
Hi again. Hey, thank you for the opportunity. I had a skip in the presentation there. So I'm talking about Umberg's Bill 342. And without going into a lot of detail, I'm available to talk to people from the board and the legislative committee. A couple comments that I have personal experience is that we need some more clarity and definition as to what is a duly licensed contractor. I've spent a lot of money in legal fees arguing with exchanges of letters and interrogatories as to what is a licensed contractor. I know it has a definition in 7125. But I think that if it's clarified in the bill, in the upcoming legislation, that it would reduce some of the legal rambling. And one example would be the requirement of workers' compensation insurance. My personal experience where there is a continuing debate as to what is an employee, and when we ask for information, they then claim that everything is a client attorney privilege or it's a trade secret. The standards as a reference to like ABC or Borello should be included in here so that it's more clear. I'll give you one specific example. It says in 7031 that if you're unlicensed that you can't bring action. I have personal experience where an unlicensed contractor has filed a lien, a mechanical lien on my property. It held up payments, all kinds of stuff. I'll spare you all the details. But I think that if we clarify and define some of these things better, it will make the resolution go along faster. I'm available to help anybody out with my personal experience on this, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you very much. Catherine, are there any members on WebEx who wish to comment on SB 456?
Yes, Davi Rodriguez has raised his hand, so I'll be sending him a request to unmute.
Good morning again. First, I will be admitting that this legislation, I am the cause of it. I complained loudly all over the state about these cities and counties hiring unlicensed contractors to paint what they call murals. And they largely ignored me. And this is their attempt to find a very unjust bill, very unjust practice into law. No, you know, what an artist is. They try and define it here, but it's very ambiguous. So much so that I don't think any judge is going to want to decide a case over this. They're probably just going to dismiss it if you go out and arrest somebody as a painter and they say, well, no, I'm an artist. It's so ambiguous, and they're coding it so that about something about a label or a copyright. Hey, anybody can copyright anything very, very easily. You can also just change the hue of the paint and put 2 tones in it and say that's, you know, artistry. Now, I don't see how any painter should not be given the same consideration. These people the artistry is involving contracts, you know, $40,000 sometimes, and they're also calling for all this prep work in there, the pressure washing and even adding architectural stuff into there so that it co-joins in the mural. Sacramento City just did one after I challenged them. They're sneaky now about it. They're hiding it from the public record. That's just, you know, that's just the cities and counties we're talking about. Now, once this law gets passed, then everybody gets to do it. Doesn't matter if you work for a city or a county. And any painter, why would they get a contractor's license at this point? They could certainly just fall under this exemption. So there's this grand inequity that this thing is creating, an ambiguity. And I think it's going to create a nightmare for the board to try a new enforcement of painters after that point. They should just get licensed. I'm sorry, that's it.
No, that's good. Thank you for your perseverance and explanation. So I think this is something we should bring up because I looked at it as a benefit, but your description is basically not a benefit. So I think this is something we should bring up at our June meeting. Without objections, Registrar Pope?
Yeah, I just what we would like to do, I guess, from a staff perspective, would be to maybe meet with Davey Rodriguez and also do a little more research into it, bring it back to the board on June 13th.
That would be great. Thank you. Are there any more comments, public comments on WebEx, Catherine?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you. And let's move on to our final bill, SB 517, the yellow. An analysis of this bill can be found in the supplemental meeting materials. SB 517 is pending the Senate Judiciary Committee. This bill requires every home improvement contract to include the name and contact information of the subcontractor. If the subcontractor performs more than 50% of the total estimated project costs, staff recommended a support if amended position. This bill provides greater transparency between the prime contractor and consumer and may reduce the number of mechanics lien placed on homeowners. Staff has recommended amendments to the author's office to clarify that the prime contractor is responsible for the subcontractor's work and include the subcontractor's license number and classification along with their name and contact information in the home improvement contract. For further comment on this bill, I'll turn it over to Dave Vogt. Registrar?
Thank you, Chair Barton. From an enforcement standpoint, and even more importantly, from a consumer protection standpoint, it's very important that you as a homeowner are contracting with somebody that's licensed and responsible for the work that's being performed. And what we see on occasion is where we have a prime contractor, I mean the contractor that has that direct contract with the property owner, that will tell the property owner, you don't like the work done by my sub, contact them directly. And we don't allow that, no. You as the prime contractor are responsible. The owner needs to advise the prime contractor to work that was done allegedly defective by the subcontractor. I'll explain why that's so important. Because when you have a contract with somebody and you're paying them directly, we need that evidence to support a financial injury. We don't investigate subcontractors. The only exception to that is where a prime contractor could show us they put the sub on proper written notice and the sub didn't perform, and the prime had to repair or complete their work, we would entertain that complaint. But we can't have prime contractors telling homeowners, you knew a subcontractor was doing this work, you work directly with them to resolve it. No, that's why we would like to have, that's why we want the amendment to make it very clear that while it's helpful to know who the sub is, that there's a clear understanding that the prime contractor is 100% accountable for any work done by that prime contractor's subcontractors.
Thank you, Registrar Vogt. If you'd work on that with staff and Legislative Director May at our June meeting, if you would.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. I'd like to open the agenda item up for discussion by committee members. Are there any comments or questions from committee members regarding SB 517?
Yes, Chair. Just for my clarity, Register Folk, was the recommendation to lower it from 50% to any subcontractor? Is that what the amendment is moving forward? Or what exactly are we changing in this specific SB 517?
Well, that's absolutely something you could recommend, but as far as the amendment, we just wanted a sentence in there that clarifies or confirms that the prime is responsible for the subcontractor's work. But if the 50%, Senator Nilo has been very supportive of the contractors for the construction industry. You may entertain another amendment, but 50%, pretty good threshold. You know, another issue that happens is we have liens placed on homes by subcontractors. So you as a property owner would benefit you to know if the sub's doing more than 50% of the work, because you could ensure that was paid for before you pay your prime for that portion.
No doubt. I think lessons from on the public work side is anything more than 1/2 of 1%, you must notify the client that they're working on the job. Not only does that prevent labor fraud, because they're responsible to submit payroll reports that they have employees on the job, but it also affords the client to know whose material is being delivered, who they don't get a mechanic sling from somebody they didn't know was working on the job outside of the prime contractor. So I certainly would, when the opportunity arises, to revisit the 50% because there's exposure to the public, quite frankly, at any percent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miguel. Registrar Vogt, if you look into that, please. And we'll bring a June agenda. Any other comments from committee members? I think Mr. Kobos had.
So prior to adjourning, I just, if it's not out of order on item 4, AB 1002 Gabriel, just for clarification, I don't know if we moved that bill to the June agenda, and if not, I'm requesting it this time.
I didn't hear that last part. We heard you mentioned 1002, and then what was the last statement you made about it?
I wasn't sure if we moved that also to the June agenda, and if not, I'm requesting it this time.
We did.
Certainly will, yes.
No, we did.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Registrar Vogt. Thank you, Committee Member Kobos, for that.
I missed it. So.
All right, good. So now, any other committee members? Yes.
Thomas Reese. Would on 517, you know, subcontractors get changed out. Would this require informing the homeowner when that happens? And then, you know, because we know that contractors get changed out frequently. So is there a noticing requirement in this bill as well?
Oh, that's a good point, Registrar Vogt. Is there any way we could include that?
Well, we can absolutely propose that be added to the bill. I don't believe there's a requirement today, but we could clarify that. Yeah. That's right. Senator Nilo, if he would entertain an amendment to require that they update the subcontractor if they have a substitution.
Thank you, Thomas. Good point. All right, any other committee members would like to make comment or discuss? All right, great, thank you. Now I'd like to turn to public comment. Are there any members of the public in Sacramento who wish to address the committee regarding SB 517? All right, hearing none. Catherine, are there any members of the public on WebEx who wish to comment on SB 517?
Yes, we have two people. Yes, we have two, actually we have 3 people. One of them just dropped off. I'll request if he wants to speak first. Yes, there he is. So I will send a request to Roy Porter to unmute, and then we have 2 other commenters after that.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So having had personal experience with this, I want to extend my invitation to CSLB and the legislative people working on this for comments. I believe that the percentage should be dropped to much less than 50%. I have personal experience where suddenly I get preliminary notice for materials for people I have no idea who they are, and they were satisfied, but I had no notice of who subcontractors were. We've subsequently found out in my particular situation that none of the subcontractors, or 5 of them, were licensed in the state of California, and they didn't have workers' compensation insurance. So what I'm suggesting is that there be full disclosure of all subcontractors, including their license number, and that they have adequate insurance and a way to contact them. Nobody likes surprises, and I think that that would help to reduce a few, at least in my case. I want to support the change out notice because I had several subcontractors for electrical and plumbing change throughout the project, and the general told me it was at his discretion and he didn't need to tell me who he had working on the job. So I would be surprised to find new or different people working. So I think that giving this notice would help many people in many ways and prevent or reduce some of the antics that go on. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for that, Registrar Folk. Is that something we could look into also prior to our June meeting?
Yes, we can absolutely follow up on that. We do have the contact information in the chat.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other comments from WebEx, Catherine?
Before we go to that, I think we may have lost the quorum. Diana Lubb has left the meeting, so I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that before we proceeded.
Okay, let me know when you're ready. Thank you.
If she left, and I think we have 5.
Yeah, she said that she needed to leave the meeting. I was telling her that we still needed the quorum, but then she left before I could tell her so.
I think we still have 5 out of 7.
Do we?
Okay, yes. We're okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, so thank you. All right,
Thank you.
for that, we'll go to the next comment then. And I will call upon Andrea Montano.
Thank you again, committee and Catherine. I promise this is probably my last comment of the day. I just want to plus register folks edifications on the making the prime contractor accountable, and also some sub compliance there, as well as what Roy had mentioned about having full disclosure for the subcontractors that are being hired. We try to do our due diligence when we're looking up craftsmanship and work, and it's really hard to do that if you really don't know what's happening behind the curtain. And so I would definitely agree with those points. And also going back to incorporating a framework for emergency response approach, this could strengthen kind of a 3-way handshake also for subcontractors. I know this is really about enforcement and accountability. I agree that we need to look at less than 50% because a lot of these cases, they're, electrical engineers, they're plumbing contractors. There's different people coming in to do foundation work, do framing and, tape and texturing. And so it's really hard to say what is that 50% and is that adequate for the protection that you're trying to put in place. And also want to be reaching out to Senator Niello to add some provisions potentially to prevent misrepresentation about subcontractor performance, including false claims that subcontractors walked off the job so they can rehire a new contractor and also not pay that person. And we've seen that happen in multiple instances. Also tying in that rapid response protocol when subcontractors report non-payment, that may threaten a business's viability. And so that also has detrimental effects on the contractor. And then that's where these peekaboo mechanical liens are filed out of nowhere. And there's no even contact information for where they can find out more about that or even object to that, the validity of that. Establishing a financial hardship triage system, again, tying that component back in, would specifically also help subcontractors who have employees and, still trying to keep the lights on. And then implementing some type of this bridge that that creates opportunity for severely impacted folks, because we're seeing that there's less accountability at the general level, and then there's a lot of other procedural things that are happening between what the homeowner has to go through to complete the project, potentially working with planning departments, and there's some complexities there, as well as trying to figure out who's filing potential liens against their property, even though they paid the general contractor and those funds weren't dispersed properly. So I think strengthening this bill would enhance disclosure, having some contractual language that covers the protection for all of these parties, I think is critical. And those are some of the recommendations that I would like to take forward to Senator Danilo for this bill. Just some additional things there I'd like to consider as we look at this one in its totality. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. I know Registrar Pope will take that under advisement, and also Legislative Director May for this important bill. So, Catherine, are there any other members on WebEx who wish to comment on SB 517?
Yes, Beto has his hand raised. I'll be sending him a request to unmute.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
My comment comes back on enhancing this bill to incorporate bonding requirements. I know I kind of touched up earlier on another subject, but it kind of ties back into this when you have prime contractors that use either 50% or sometimes even greater than 50% of subcontractor work. And in addition to that, the rampant sales and demand of, particularly right now in the ADU market, but you do have a lot of prime contractors that engage in strictly selling projects and hiring only predominantly subcontractors to perform most of the work. The bonding requirement right now at $25,000 does absolutely nothing to create a safeguard for either homeowners or subcontractors. Using myself an example, in multiple occasions, the $12,000 before, now $25,000 bond spurred out into multi-million-dollar claims. The offer that was given to the subcontractors was, in my case, was like $47, $250,000 in claims. So when you have prime contractors specifically engaging in the practice of hiring subs to do all of the work, it creates a huge liability for subcontractors to carry on the entire burden in the event that the prime goes down. So this is something that I think needs to be enhanced, needs to be looked at by CSLB to create protection, not only just for the subcontractors. We understand our risk factors when we engage in the business, but homeowners themselves fall victim to this as well when they've paid thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands in some cases, to primes, and the prime goes out of business and they're completely without a project and without a money. So I think this is something that would be, in my opinion, needs to be looked at and fixed.
Thank Thank you so much for that comment. Catherine, are there any other general public on WebEx wish to comment regarding SB 517?
Think no more at this time.
All right, thank you. Well, now, what you've all been waiting for, item D, adjournment. Moving on to adjournment, I'd like to thank the legislative committees, staff, and the public for participating in today's meeting. It was all great discussion. Today's discussion will help formulate staff recommendations to the full board at the June quarterly meeting. And before I ask for a motion to adjourn again, thank Registrar Foe, all his competent staff up there in Sacramento. They do such a great job for the board, so I appreciate that. And I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We move seconded. Without objection, the meeting stands adjourned at 12:21. Thank you, everyone in the general public. Thank you all for your time here on these important subjects.
Yeah.
You did great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well.
We're adjourned.